Hang on a second. I gotta add a filter here. I think you guys can probably hear my fan going. Hello? Everybody hear me okay? How we doing? Looks like it's doing okay. Yeah, noise gate to get rid of the fan noise. Yeah, that was a pretty ridiculous episode. I didn't think we were gonna get Dragon Jurassic Park, but you know, here we are. That was the most oh wait, hang on, I need to put this on mono. There we go. That was the most Jurassic Park that House of the Dragon has ever gotten. George R. R. Martin, wherever he is, must have been very, very happy at seeing that scene. He talks all the time about how much he loves the dinosaurs. He loves T-Rexes. He like often recommends fantasy stories that are based around dinosaurs. So this must have been to his heart's content, seeing Vermithor just go straight, like, complete T-Rex mode, just eating everybody and everything. It was incredible stuff. Yeah, who thought the Bronze Fury was gonna be a total D-bag? Anybody? Oh yeah, me. Yeah, I thought that. Um, you don't get a nickname like that for no reason. I also really enjoyed the kind of the dichotomy between, or the juxtaposition of the two dragons. Vermithor, people are like, "Hi Vermithor, how's it going?" He's like, "I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. Kill you. Kill you. Kill you. We'll kill you. You're dead too. Everybody's dead. I'm killing everybody in sight." And Silverwing's like, "Oh hun, don't, you stepped on my eggs. Oh, you silly goose. Here, let me just get away from them for a second. Let me clean it up. Oh, how you doing? I'm Silverwing. How are you? Ulf, nice to meet you. I'm the dragon Silverwing." Vermithor, meanwhile, like slightly off screen, is just eating every human it can find. um, I really enjoyed that we got to see dragon personalities. There hasn't been a whole lot of that so far. A lot of them look different, but they're not really acting different. Like Cyrax and Sea Smoke are doing basically the same thing this episode. Melee's is kind of doing whatever Rhaenys wanted. Craxy's has that cool deviated septum, I guess, and that counts for, and it has the weird way of flying, but here they definitively gave the dragons personality, which I very much enjoyed seeing. A bit odd that dragon would immediately befriend someone that stepped on an egg. But that's Silverwing. Silverwing's the nice dragon. Silverwing is just wanting to be people's friends. Just wants to get pets and have a good time and doesn't want to kill anybody. Um it was adorable. She's like like somebody's grandmother. Like people are like, "Oh, Granny Vagar, want to go do some war crimes." Like Silverwing is legitimately the granny dragon. She's just having a great time out. Just having a great time. You sort of got the feeling that whoever walked up was going to tame Silverwing. um, which is kind of on brand for her as a dragon. Um, Rhaenyra didn't even bring up the possibility of Silverwing. I thought that was really funny. She's like, "All right, you're all going at Vermithor. Let's start at the hardest one. Let's start at the top, the one who might kill all of you. We're gonna find out which one of you can tame that dragon." If anybody, like somebody in the back should have been like, "Is there a nicer one? Like, can we start with something other than the Bronze Fury? Like anybody?" Would have been, it was a choice. they talked about in the after the episode that the idea of blood sacrifice was sort of on the mind of the writers as they were going through this entire episode. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about like what we just saw with Vermithor and Silverwing and the mass slaughter of the Dragonseeds, um, along kind of with Willem Blackwood and his execution at the Weirwood Godswood in Harrenhal. These are basically the followers or kind of the adherents of these religions and these magical forces being more or less sacrificed to them. Certainly Willem as a Blackwood and a follower of the old gods, and being executed in front of a Weirwood is not the same as anybody being executed. This is a big thing for him. And a bunch of dragon seeds and Targaryen bastards being eaten by dragons is certainly something that sort of, I mean, if you're looking for the cannibal, there it is. There's the cannibal. The dragon eating other dragons. I'm not sure we're actually going to get that one, but it was very interesting how that was framed by Rhaenyra. I also thought of while that was all happening. Hang on a second. Let's see here. I made a new frame for myself. Look, isn't it cool? So Vermithor and Rhaenyra. Then we've got Silver Dennis about to get killed by Vermithor. Then we have this look on Rhaenyra's face, and she kind of kept this the whole time, where it was kind of along the lines of morbid fascination, but also it was hard to read. They said in the after the episode, hang on a second, that Rhaenyra is being seen here as almost a cult leader, kind of a they called her a pastor among the flock with the dragon seeds, and you can see that sort of in her speech that she gave to them. And a few other things she said during this episode that really did sort of lean into the idea of prophecy and kind of religious fervor. Like, Rhaenyra is very much what's the right way of saying it? Oh, hang on. I have double coming through. Okay. I don't think we need two of me talking. One's probably enough. So let me make sure I got this one right. Analog, advanced audio properties. Cool. Yeah, kind of like the shepherd idea. I mean, obviously the shepherd is coming probably next season, but there's this odd fascination that you get from Rhaenyra, which was almost kind of like you saw with Daenerys when Viserys was being killed, where it's like this idea of not wanting to look away, to see the sacrifices being made for her crown. And there's been sort of a sense for her this season that things are happening far away. You know, people are dying on battlefields and castles away from her, and she can't see it. And all of this is happening out of sight, out of mind. It's like not real. And in this scene, this is really like her first big, like, something she's doing in the moment in front of her. And been talking about, like, what I want to be on the battlefield. I want to be more a part of it. This is my war. Well, this is what it's like, Rhaenyra. You're watching a whole bunch of people get burned and eaten to death by Vermithor. This is the thing that Rhaenys warned her about. This is the thing that she's been so desperately trying to avoid, and now it's in front of her, and it's her own fault at this point. That one was pretty funny. And this is the after Vermithor is claimed by Hugh. She also has this interesting sort of look on her face where it's somewhere between satisfaction and fear. I was trying to read on Emma's face. I'm not sure if anybody else got that out of it, because obviously she doesn't say anything while this is happening. But it's kind of like, I got what I wanted, and in a sense of, is that even a good thing? You know, sort of the thing where the gods, where they, if they want to challenge you, they give you what you want. Rhaenyra has what she wants. Somebody's riding Vermithor. Is that a good thing? Is her plan like worth it? Nice frame, thank you. I've been trying to upgrade my stuff and figured out how to do this little like circular camera thing, which I think looks a lot better. Very, very good episode. Yes, I agree. Going back and reading through. It's not dragon personality, it's dragonality. That sounds like something from Mortal Kombat, like a babyality, a dragonality. Does Blood of the Dragon mean anything? Yes. Yes, it does. It doesn't mean nothing. So if we're talking about the dragon riders who have claimed the dragons, I mean, obviously this happens in Fire and Blood. This is not new, in a sense. Hugh, Ulf, Nettles, Adam, Valarian, all claim dragons in Fire and Blood. And at least with Hugh and Ulf, definitely 100% they are, well, not definitely, but they are heavily implied to be Targaryen bastards. Definitely in the show they are. They've given them the wigs and all that stuff to make sure you know it, and the stories about their parents so we can connect them. Which, by the way, we'll get to Hugh Hammer's connection to the Targaryens, but also, so this is a thing that I thought was really interesting. I want to go back to the first scene. If you can't tell, I went through and took a lot of screenshots. So with this scene here at the beginning, when we're talking about Adam and Rhaenyra facing each other, Ryan Condal described it in the after the episode that he wanted this to be seen as a Western showdown. These are two cowboys with their hands on their guns, and they're getting ready to fire. Pew, 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 pew. And they're not really sure what to make of each other, and they're trying to feel it out. And the same is true for both of them from their body language when you see when they face each other. Adam has a bit of a swagger at first with the way he's moving. He eventually jumps down to, or gets down on his knees and swears deference to Rhaenyra. But there's definitely a sense that Adam thinks he might have to fight for his life right here. And Rhaenyra, they said this in the after the episode as well, that Rhaenyra was looking at Adam, looking at Sea Smoke, and as she's talking to him, trying to decide if she has to, well, this is kind of the look that says it all. She's trying to decide if she has to kill Adam and or Sea Smoke, and how loyal they will be, which is a big part of this episode, the idea of loyalty. You know, once you give somebody a dragon, do you really have control of them anymore? Do you have... They're the same as you in a sense. Now, you can sort of see the disbelief in Rhaenyra as she's questioning Adam. She's like, how did you do this? Like, what just happened? Adam denies that he tried to take Sea Smoke, which is true, that Sea Smoke sort of just kind of said, you're my rider, boy. And that's kind of what happened. Like, you right there, you're going to be my rider. But Rhaenyra instantly goes into this line of questioning where she's asking, who are you? What's your parentage? Like, do you have Targaryen blood? Are you like a bastard of our family? And it's really interesting with this exchange because it kind of changes everything for the rest of the episode. So Adam denies being anyone of consequence. Notably, he denies being Corlys's son. He sort of portrays himself to Rhaenyra basically like he's Nettles. That he has no Valyrian parents, that he's nothing special, that he's just a dockside worker. There's nothing to see here. He's just a guy that got lucky. That's sort of how, well, blessed by the gods is the way that he puts it. and Rhaenyra's mind starts turning, and we see later that she's like, he must have Targaryen blood somewhere, but she's not sure. And the interesting thing that happens here is I'm not sure if Rhaenyra goes along with Mysaria's plan to grab all the Targaryen bastards they can find and throw them at Vermithor to see what sticks, if Adam doesn't lie here. Because that sort of puts the seed of doubt in Rhaenyra of like, well, I guess this is possible. She sort of listens to him here where he says the thing about, what is the line? If the gods call me to greater things, who am I to refuse them? And she more or less says the same line later to Mysaria. Again, I was talking about the idea of religious and prophetic things coming into Rhaenyra's mind. It really puts the question in her mind of like, how much does this really matter? Because Rhaenyra, of course, could look back through Corlys's bloodline and figure out which Targaryen princess or queen it was that married into his family. I mean, it's a thing in Fire and Blood, or it's not Fire and Blood. It's in one of the books. It might be the World Book, but basically, Corlys does have Targaryen bloodlines, but it's a long time ago. Like Stefan Darklyn levels. It's like generations back that he's related. So Rhaenyra could sort of justify it that way. Well, if you're related to Corlys, he's a Velaryon. Also, he has some Targaryen blood from all these intermarriages. All right, I can see it. I can understand why you got it. But it's believing that Adam is truly nobody is kind of what spurs her forward in this quest of like, yes, I will let anybody give it a shot as long as they might have Targaryen blood somewhere. It kind of really opens her mind. And I find that really interesting. So, oh yes, speaking of, I put out a dragon video today. If one of the mods could grab that one and throw it in there for people. Our very own Sanrixian did the video editing on it. The first time somebody has done any video editing on a video for me other than myself. I think she did a wonderful job. I think it's a great video. So after we finish here or tomorrow or whatever, you guys should definitely go check it out. Links in the chat for everybody. Yeah, Adam is really kind of the gatekeeper here for all the stuff that happens next. There's also kind of his body language and treatment of Rhaenyra is very, very interesting in the sense that he sort of bows and shows a lot of deference to Rhaenyra as soon as she starts to challenge him. Although you can see from the dragons that Sea Smoke ain't having none of that. As Syrax approaches, Sea Smoke screams right back. The two of them are ready to brawl, but Adam sort of, in the way that he's been brought up to, knows that he shouldn't challenge Rhaenyra, and there's kind of the sense of the dragons and the Valyrians are gods, and I think the exceptionalism idea is really on display here between the two of them. Adam feels that he's been blessed by the gods, and that how should he refuse them? That's a very, very Jaehaerys the First idea. You can see sort of the way it has pushed through the population, even to far-flung little places like Driftmark, and everyone kind of believes the Targaryens and their dragons are gods. They're more. And even though Adam here has the dragon, there's definitely a sense within him that he feels like he still has to bow to Rhaenyra, when if you just look at the scene, just look at the way the dragons are, there's no difference between them. One is tan, one is kind of like a silver gray color. They're about the same size. They almost look identical. They could fight each other. Adam might win, but there's still this idea of the Targaryen exceptionalism that makes him not really believe in this moment that he should really stand up to Rhaenyra, that he could make his own path. Also, there's definitely some there's some calculus going on in Adam's head. He sees that Rhaenyra is aggressive along with Syrax, and she has things to offer him. Like if he helps her win, obviously could make him a lord, could give him riches. The same thing could happen for the Greens, but there's also sort of the idea of loyalty among Adam that ends up being a big part of his storyline. If nothing else, I don't think he's doing this for Rhaenyra. If I had to guess, Adam is bending the knee to Rhaenyra for Corlys, because Corlys and the Valorian house has sworn to her. You know, this is their side. Even though, yeah, he could go to the Greens right now, and Aemond would, if he didn't execute him, would give him riches and everything he could ever want to switch sides. It's such a big deal. Yes, the Targaryens are only one of the 40-ish dragon riding houses that survived the Doom. Yes, there were the 40 families. When they left, the Targaryens were kind of the chumps of the Freehold, although we learned in a little, like, book thing that people screenshotted that they used to be much more powerful, and they had kind of fallen on hard times before the Doom. Yeah, I think this dynamic between the two of them, and learning a lot about Adam in this moment, and sort of, he said this to Alan in the previous episode, that he wants to be a Velaryon. He wants to be Corlys' son, and if he wants to do that, he can't really challenge Rhaenyra. That would make him disloyal to his father, who doesn't even acknowledge him. That ends up being a big part. They talk about this a lot after the episode. We'll get to it when we get to that scene, but Adam cares a lot about what Corlys thinks. Oh, and by the way, slam that like button if you would, please. Thank you very much. Definitely helps out the channel and letting people know we're having a good time. So thumbs up on that one. She's so suspicious. Yeah, Rhaenyra is very suspicious here. That's kind of what they were saying in after the episode, that she almost kills Adam here because she doesn't know what to do with this situation. Then we go to Alicent and in her bedroom with Orwell, but more importantly, rats. It's a rat, guys. Guys, we're on Rat Watch. Rat Watch is back. Hang on. Rat Watch. We found a rat. Gotta pay attention to him. Always pay attention to every rat. The three-eyed rat is always watching. So this scene is kind of part of a three-parter for Alicent. That's the line that's most important here is, she says to Orwell, "All my life I have endeavored to service to both my house and the realm, and somehow none of it matters. We are cast aside or hated." And Alicent is more or less in a deep depression. She's kind of lost everything. She's lost her sons. She basically almost just lost Helena. In the previous episode, we realized that she knows basically nothing about Daron, so that's another lost child. Yes, please put rats in the chat, please. Lots of rats in the chat. Thank you very much. Let's fill that up. I want the entire thing filled with rats doing cool things. And not only that, she has lost her family, but she's lost her place at court. She's lost her purpose. She really enjoyed being an administrator of the realm. She really enjoyed feeling like she was a person of consequence, and Aemon has stripped her of that. And so it's like, what does she really have now? What is the purpose of her life? A good question for a character in this situation to try and figure out. I do like the little bit of filmmaking here where this is the cut that she has on her arm, the same place that Rhaenyra got it during season 1 when Alicent went at her with the dagger of destiny. that's some nice parallels between the characters. There's a lot of parallels between Rhaenyra and Alicent here, especially with her journey to the Kingswood. If you guys remember from season 1, going into the Kingswood and seeing the White Hart and being out there with Kristen Cole, killing the boar. These are less bloody, but Alicent is once again doing her version of Rhaenyra's teenage years. But the part that I thought that really stuck out is Orwell says, as he's working on her wound, you will have a scar, but it will be easily healed. It will be easily hidden. He's more or less saying to her, or at least kind of the show is saying metaphorically to Alicent, you've been wounded, you've been hurt, you've lost something, but you will wear this scar, but it's not the end of the world. This isn't a fatal wound. This isn't like Aegon getting almost burned to death by a dragon. Like, it hurts, but you can move on. And Alicent isn't really sure she wants to. There's definitely... they talked about this after the episode when I think most people probably picked up on it that Alicent was considering if her life is still worth living. Orwell is saying, yes, you can move on just scarred, and Alicent isn't sure if she wants to do that. Then she leaves for the Kingswood with Sir Rickard Thorne. Game of Thrones fans will remember Sir Alistair Thorne. This is his ancestor. Or, actually, they're probably not related since he's on the Kingsguard, but house member, Alistair Thorne and Rickard Thorne. This Thorne's way nicer. Yay! Yay for that Thorne. But she wants to go on to the Kingswood with only Sir Rickard, and she wants no stewards, no retinues, no handmaidens, just the two of them. So yes, again, this is drawing a pretty heavy parallel between herself and Rhaenyra. Basically, nobody to stop her from doing whatever she's thinking about doing. Sir Rickard is, if she went out there with her retinue and her handmaidens, they'd always be with her. Especially out in the woods where it's dangerous. So, yeah. Ooh, I can certainly understand sort of the idea of kind of what she's doing in terms of like trying to sort out her emotions and her place in the world by going out to the Kingswood. I think most people that have felt a great loss in their lives and sort of been dealt a heavy blow to their ego and self-worth sort of need time to figure out who they are and how they feel about those things and what, really find yourself and line up your priorities. So that part spoke to me quite a lot. Actually, my brother did that once. After a breakup, he went out camping for like a week or something like that. So that kind of stuff happens. But also, yeah, rat alert. Make sure, keep your eyes out for the rats. Eyes on the rats. Always look out for them. Larys and his rats. They really haven't done much with the rats and Larys and all that stuff since the first 2 episodes. So it was nice to see it come back. Even if it's just fan service at this point for showing rats everywhere. We'll talk more about what Alicent's going through as we get to the different scenes, but yes, bookshelf stud, and how many other scars Alicent is keeping hidden. Yeah, definitely. She has all the scars around her fingernails. How she, like earlier in the season when Larys basically told her you're under surveillance, and she like very roughly was scrubbing at her skin. There's a lot of elements to self-harm to Alicent. It's very sad. Really feel for her. Then we get to close to my favorite scene in the episode. This was really, really good. So what we have here is Ironrod and Laris are overlooking the courtyard as Aemond is down in the courtyard of the Red Keep, more or less doing Joffrey things. He's Joffreying so hard in this moment. His Joffrey levels are like peak Joffrey. There's a capital J in front of that A. He is Jaemond in this scene. And what I love about it is how the camera work is kind of putting it as secondary. Like, what's going on in the background is actually something that should be a scene all on its own. It could be an entire set piece. And that's Aemond is taking the remaining two Aegoons, the ones who survived the riot, and he's removing their Kingsguard cloaks and setting them to the wall. So this was a big deal, if you guys remember, during Game of Thrones. Barristan Selmy being stripped of his white cloak and becoming Arstan and going to Essos to find Daenerys. He is completely flummoxed and furious at it, that the Kingsguard is a order for life, that you do not get dismissed from the Kingsguard until you die. There have been numerous terrible Kingsguard throughout the years and the generations. Shout out Boros Blunt, doing a bad job as always. Kingsguard do not get dismissed. They die in combat, but they don't get dismissed, and they don't retire. So Aemond is doing something pretty ridiculous here by stripping these guys of their Kingsguard cloak and sending them to the Night's Watch. Previously, the only guy this has happened to has been like straight up traitors. This was after Maegor the Cruel, and also there was Lucamore the Lusty, who got caught breaking his vows. These guys didn't break any vows. These guys didn't support the wrong monarch in a civil war. These guys were just bad at their jobs. And Aemond doesn't like them. So he said, you guys are out. You're going to the wall. This is very, very different. And what I like about this scene is all that context is just totally secondary to what's happening in the foreground. We're talking with Laris and Ironrod. So the conversation that's going on between them as this is happening is, if you guys caught it in the last episode, when Laris was getting dressed down by Aemond, Ironrod was really enjoying it. He was having a great time. He's like, oh, you guys, you're getting wrecked by Aemond here. You have this coming. Screw you. I don't like you. I don't like you on this council. So Ironrod here is more or less trying to set Laris up. They failed to protect the Queen. Yes, they did a bad job. Bad job is not dismissible within the Kingsguard. It's for life. Even doing a terrible job. Like, there's no cutout in those vows for unless you suck. The unless you suck part is not a part of it. But anyway, so Ironrod has this whisper. He has a whisper for Laris, and he presents it as if he's doing him a favor. And he says, I have heard that Sea Smoke has claimed a rider. And Laris is extremely skeptical in this moment. He thinks Ironrod is trying to set him up, and Laris starts probing the rumor, trying to figure out how. And eventually he kind of figures it out. He figures out that the reason Jasper Wilde is giving him this whisper is because he's not certain of it himself. Where it comes from is, his squire to his father to a shipmate. It's like four levels of very, very unreliable sources here to get to Laris. And that's sort of what's going on here. Jasper Wilde isn't certain of the rumor, and he doesn't want to get on Aemon's bad side. So he's trying to pot it off on Laris, presenting it as a favor to him. Like, here you go, man. Like, you had a rough day. You need Aemon's support. Here's this cool thing. You're the master of whispers. It will sound better coming from you. And yeah, he sees right through it. and understands that, and also shows off a surprising amount of knowledge about what's going on with the blacks. For instance, he knows, but not that much. For instance, he doesn't know Rhaena's gone. When Jasper suggests it to Rhaena, Lara says, well, she tried already. It's probably not her. That she tried to tame a dragon when she was 14 and almost died, and Lara's heard about it. So he does have sources on Driftmark and Dragonstone, which is interesting to note. But the irony of this thing is that Jasper's trying to screw Laris. Laris understands that Jasper's trying to screw him, and yet the information's right. This information is exactly what Laris needs. He needs this whisper to be true to get back in Aemon's good graces, because this is huge information. If there's another dragon rider out there, if they can find them, if they can turn them, if they can kill them, if Aemon can hunt them down on Vhagar, like this is big news. This could really swing things back in their favor. Imagine if they didn't have just Vhagar, but Vhagar and Sea Smoke. At that point, it's just Cyrax and Vermax, and they're Dunsky. And I think this says a lot about Laris, that kind of the lack of trust he has in people, the idea that he bites at every hand that offers him something because of, his personal traumas in the past, that he assumes everyone is out to get him. And in this case, he's right. Jasper is out to get him. He is trying to get him thrown off the council. That's the implication of the guys having their white cloak, the Aegoons having their white cloaks torn off and sent to the wall. Aemon's clearing house. If you're not useful to him, you're done. And the stare that Aemon gives him at the end more or less makes the point that Aemon is sort of putting Laris on notice, like, this could be you. You're next if you don't prove your worth. Laris needs this, and he turns it down because he thinks he understands the manipulation. And it's kind of sad to see how Laris feels about people trying to help him, that he instantly jumps to that Ironrod doesn't want to help him, that he goes right to, this is an attack, this is something I need to watch out for. How is this offer of help something that's trying to hurt me? He's right. Again, Laris is right, but it says a lot, especially with his previous speeches about how people will look at you and they'll pity you, and how he will accept no help. And kind of paints a very bleak picture of how he sees the world. Unfortunately, it has served him well, but doesn't make it any nicer. This looks like security footage, yeah. Good point. Darius read it before. Clever of Laris to leave the whisper unspoken, because now he can hold the early unshared knowledge against Ironrod, because Aemon will be furious not to have been told. Yes, that is another part of it. He is also setting up Ironrod in the future for, he can be like, by the way, Aemon, did you know that Jasper heard of this before? Although it kind of reflects on him poorly. I don't think that this is going to work out for the best for Laris in a sense. Because even though he can say more or less that Jasper heard this first and he held it back, the other problem is that Jasper Wilde, the Master of Laws, heard about a dragon being claimed before Laris did, the Master of Whispers. And yeah, neither of them are going to come out looking good here. It's going to be sort of the tripping the other person when you're both running from a lion here. It's like, how hard can you throw the other one under in front of the rampaging animal that's going to be Aemon here? The irony again, the irony of this scene is that if Laris actually trusted for once and he didn't see the motives and he didn't see the angles, he would be rewarded. This is, like I said, this is everything he needs. This is it. This is the break. He gets this true rumor from Jasper. It ends up being of incredible importance. It lets them act before Silverwing flies overhead. Like, this saves possibly Laris's life and position at court. And he lets it go because he can't trust anybody. Poor guy. Maybe Laris will set up Ironrod as a spy. We get a very big hint this episode of some of his sources at court. So we'll get to that one in a little bit. Aaron's son. Yeah. I do really like the idea that this major scene is just like secondary to Laris and Ironrod. It's just like a backdrop for it. It's very interesting. Next up, we go back to Dragonstone. Jace watches as Cyrax and Seasmoke come back. They go inside, and the main thing that's going on here is Bartimos Celtigar is furious that a lowborn has dared to has stolen a Targaryen dragon. He uses the word stolen. This is a theft. This came up obviously previously with Vhagar, where Baela and Rhaena and Jason Luke believed that Vhagar was stolen from them by Aemond. Meanwhile, we obviously know from watching the episode that, of course, that's not what happened. Adam was basically forced to become a dragon rider, whereas here it's being framed as it's like Grand Theft Dragon. Also, of course, they're setting up here Bartimos to continue to be a complete bastard and an asshole. His prejudice against the lowborn, the idea that, remember that this is the second time that he's been furious that somebody else has gotten a dragon. Previously with Stefan Darklyn, he's Highborn. He's the heir to the Dunfort. He's the heir to Duskendale. And still Bartimos was angry, and now he's even angrier that a small folk has managed to grab a dragon before himself. I talked about this in the previous after the episode stream I did, and also on Twitter I put up a little thread talking about it. His pride is being continuously assaulted here because he and his family are Valyrians. The Celtigars are Valyrian. Long time ago, but they still are the blood of Valyria. And everybody in the world is getting dragons before the Celtigars. They can't get a marriage. They can't get a dragon. They can't even get a chance to try to tame a dragon. Also, remember, during this whole thing, Rhaenyra throws a gaggle of dragon seeds in front of Vermithor before the Celtigars. He is going to be apoplectic when he finds out about what has happened down with Hugh Hammer and Ulf, and he's furious here. He wanted a chance at Seasmoke. Vladimir Rath, Stefan is not the heir. He's in the Kingsguard. He cannot inherit. I am aware of how the Kingsguard works. It's kind of like Jaime. He was the firstborn to Duskendale, but he gave it up to join the Kingsguard. They said in this episode that he was the heir to the Dunfort. So, yeah, I am aware of how the Kingsguard works. But anyway, so that was kind of the highlight of this scene is Celtigar. He is slamming wine and he slams down his glass and he's furious and he wants Adam thrown in jail just for being a lowborn on a dragon as a thief. I mean, being a thief in these times, like being a horse thief, could get you killed. Dragon thief, definitely killed. So he's calling for Adam to die just based on the fact that he's lowborn. Can kind of guess how he's going to treat the rest of them. The other thing is that Jace begins his very, very angry episode. He narrows his eyes when he learns that it was a lowborn that claimed sea smoke, and this kind of builds to a fury when he's with Rhaenyra later. We'll talk about more when we get that. This was kind of a small scene. Then we get Rhaenyra's library. No making out this time. No smooching. No. The relationship or the hot make-out scene, whatever that was, in the last episode is not being continued on the screen here, although there is definitely sort of a closeness between them. Mysaria is speaking, I would say, less formally than she did previously to Rhaenyra. There's a much more kind of a friendly tone between them. So, not sure exactly what's going on between them, but here we have the idea that Rhaenyra is starting to sort of buy into the idea of destiny, the prophecy, the gods, that people are favoring her. That she's kind of taking the opinion that anything that she does to survive is worth it. That because her cause is the Song of Ice and Fire, her cause is staving off the end of the world more. Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on a second. I forgot a super chat. I did not answer that. Hang on a second. From Brian Holiday, $5. It's surprising me that Jason and Rhaenyra never had that talk. He internalized hate and shame all came out here. So they did talk about it once. When Harwin Strong was leaving, Jace asked if he was a bastard, and Rhaenyra told him no. Clearly, Jace has not believed that and has sort of been unwilling to broach the subject again with Rhaenyra until this episode. And it's sort of underlining a lot of the problems they've been having. It's that Rhaenyra doesn't trust him enough to tell him the truth, even in private, about who his father was. How did it end up happening? Like, he's just had to sort of live with the idea that his mother has lied to him the whole life. Yeah, it's a real problem between the two of them. And it really bubbles over here where Rhaenyra is totally willing to, well, we'll kind of, I think, kind of get to this more when we get to the thing, but yeah, there's just this idea that even in private, Rhaenyra was not willing to talk about the honest truth of her sons, that there's always been this wall between them. The idea that she doesn't want to, like, speak it into existence, more or less. It's a lot of people have given Rhaenyra a lot of credit for her good parenting that we've seen so far, and that she's trying to encourage Jace to be more Targaryen, and the idea, like, he's so serious about his High Valyrian and how he's so proud of being a dragon rider because it shows that he's connected to her and all this. But one part of her relationship with Jace that has been bad is this here, the idea that there's this massive looming elephant in the room that they don't talk about, and that it has clearly weighed on his mind all these years. But anyway, thank you for the super chat, Brian Holiday. I appreciate it. That is a good point. So yeah, where's the line here? It says, Mysaria says, so you say he serves you, not himself. That is lucky. And Rhaenyra says, lucky or somehow ordained. Sea Smoke chose him. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind here is that while everyone else is talking about the throne and the winning the civil war as Rhaenyra's aim, we have to remember that in her conversation with Jace, her decision to go into dragon combat, to unleash the dragons, fire and blood, all that stuff, is explicitly because it's to save the world from darkness. the Song of Ice and Fire, the dream, the Conqueror's dream, that is what made her decide to continue this war. That it's not just for a throne, it's for life in general. And you see this sort of Stannis-y kind of Daenerys logic kind of creeping into it, that this sort of happens constantly in George's world. The idea that the prophecy raises the stakes so much that it makes characters do things they wouldn't normally do. It makes them push boundaries because they think if they don't win, if they don't get there, the world and life will end. And that's kind of what you're seeing from Rhaenyra kind of creep into her logic. That she'll casually throw these dragon seeds in front of Vermithor, that she will risk the future of House Targaryen as the only dragon lords in the world because it's for this greater purpose. And she's kind of starting to buy into it. I find that a really interesting look at her, because obviously this isn't something that comes about in Fire and Blood. In Fire and Blood, her decision to accept the dragon seeds and get them to jump onto the dragons is just for preservation. And here you see that they're introducing, again, I think Stannis is probably the right comp, the idea that there's so much he compromises for the Lord of Light, for Melisandre's prophecy, the idea that he's the prince that was promised, that's starting to happen with Rhaenyra. I find that really cool. Oh, thank you, Maura Lee. 50. Maura, Jesus, you don't have to do that. Thank you so much for the dragon seeds. So that would be, there are about 20 dragon seeds. So that'll be like a $1 and $2 and like a dime per dragon seed. There you go. No, 250. 20. Yeah, 250 per dragon. Well, I can't math. It's a good thing I can talk on camera. Math ain't my strong suit. Yeah, I'm thank you so much. And yeah, I'm really fascinated to see where this goes. How far Rhaenyra starts pushing things to try and to feel like she's the chosen one, that the gods are favoring her. Not a thing that we've seen from her previously. If you remember, when she's talking to Alicent, she's like, I don't care for the gods. I'm not really religious. This is apparently the Song of Ice and Fire, the Conqueror's dream, is taking the place of a belief in a higher power for her, and that's leading her down a very, very questionable path. Seed money. Michael, you every time, just so damn clever. Also, we have Mysaria here dropping the knowledge that there are 80, otherwise known as 80, bastard progeny that are known to her. They're sure to be more. They only get about, like, it looks like 20 or so, 20 or 30, actually to come and try and claim a dragon. But you can see how this idea very much appeals to Mysaria as a character. She's been sort of fighting the aristocracy and the High Lords this entire time. She's been subtly trying to push Rhaenyra to taking people more seriously. Like, her argument here is, your royal half-brothers, Aegon and Aemond, whose blood is pure, who wage war against you for your throne, are they bound by honor? A common shipwright vows to serve you while your brothers seek to destroy you. The order of things has changed, your grace. Why not embrace it? This is one of those things that will possibly be a problem for them in the future. The idea that Mysaria is sort of really pushing hard for her to give the small folk dragons, because she wants to sort of, it's a tension in their relationship. Mysaria wants Rhaenyra to be queen, thinks she'll be a good queen, but if you democratize the dragons and you put them in the hands of kind of randomish people throughout the realm, the monarchy might crumble as they know it, and it could even, at its worst case, be the rise of Valyria again. And there's sort of this idea with Mysaria of she's pursuing her goals, but the ends end up being very different from what she imagines. And for instance, Rhaenyra's not going to forget that it's Mysaria who is the one that counseled her to do this, to put Hugh and Ulf on these dragons, also to trust Adam and not kill him, to free up Sea Smoke, more or less. If things go bad with them, she might blame Mysaria. Good question, Joseph Narusis. We'll get to that one, but does Larys know about the dragon seeds? He's a pretty shitty master of whispers to let that one go on underneath his nose. So it's sort of a question that's been happening with Larys a lot this season. Is he not as good as he seemed in season 1, or is he kind of letting things progress underneath his nose? I talked about that in the first 2 videos I did this season, talking about Larys and Blood and Cheese, where it's, is he what is his goal? What does he really want? Because a lot of what he's doing kind of undercuts the Greens and ends up hurting them by basically blowing apart their faction. Like, the problems he has now with Aemon being Prince Regent and Aegon being French fried, and the predicament they find themselves in, is largely because of Larys. His little whispers at the beginning of the season, the butterfly flapping its wings, he could find himself getting sent to the wall because he convinced Aegon to get rid of Otto Hightower. I mean, Aegon was kind of doing that on his own, but he really made that happen. And there's a real tension there with Larys of, he's either suddenly very bad at his job or he's being intentionally bad. I don't think we really know yet. He's a pretty bad master of whispers to not notice that all the Targaryen bastards in the city over the course of a couple nights or days or whatever are all jumping on boats out of the city and sailing to Dragonstone. That's pretty neglectful on his part. Again, bad, intentionally bad. Both things can certainly be true. So let's see here. Also, the idea of sacrifice here. Rhaenyra at the end of this scene says, "For 20 years, the lords of this realm levied insults at my sons behind my back. Well then, let us raise an army of bastards." So, explicitly, Rhaenyra is saying that I'm going to have to sacrifice Jace's credibility, more or less, for this cause. She spent so long trying to ditch this idea that she is the mother of bastards, that the heir is a bastard, and she's gonna do it anyway. She's gonna embrace the idea of it, which, gonna sacrifice Jace's mental well-being and trust in her. The idea that she would do this for dragons, but not for him, which is a real big problem. Next up, we have Adam and Corlys. So this is one that's hard to read on the first time through. So Corlys walks in and says, "My lord, how you've come up in the world." Adam asked to quit his job, more or less, to become a full-time dragon rider, and Corlys is like, "Absolutely, man. Like, totally. Like, yeah, don't even worry about it. You're a dragon rider. Like, this is awesome." And he kind of walks towards Adam, and Adam kind of is looking down. He's standing like this the whole time, but you sort of get the anticipation that maybe Corlys is about to like give him a clap on the shoulder, or give him a hug, or even call him by his name. You notice here, he doesn't say his name. I'm not sure Corlys knows his name. Actually, in chat, does Corlys Velaryon know Adam's name? Adam in the previous episode that Corlys has never spoken to him before. and ignored him his entire life. So, do you think Corlys knows his name? I think there's a good shot the answer is no. He knows Alan. Not sure about Adam. But Corlys walks up, stops short, and says, "Well done," and turns around and walks away. After the episode on this one was very insightful from both Corlys and Adam's perspective, where Adam, his actor, said that this is kind of, it wasn't a lot, but it was acknowledgement. He said it meant a lot to Adam to be seen by his father for once. That he, even in the relationship with his brother, Alan is sort of the apple of Corlys's eye, as small as that is, with how he's treated him throughout his life. Alan's been ignored. Even getting an acknowledgement, Corlys talking to him, saying well done, that he's more or less saying he's proud of him for what he's done, means an incredible amount to Adam. And I talked about this when the scene on the beach where Adam more or less is swearing fealty Rhaenyra for Corlys, and here is being rewarded to it. And from Corlys's perspective, Stephen Toussaint had a really interesting way of looking at it. He said that Corlys is happy that Adam has done something worth recognizing, and it's not something that was given to him. I think that makes a lot of sense for his character, because if you guys don't know Corlys's backstory, the Velaryons before Corlys Velaryon were not much. They were not one of the great houses of the realm. Their navy wasn't one to be feared the world over. They were not the richest house in the realm. Corlys, basically on his own with his 9 voyages, turned them into what they are. He is highborn, but he took kind of a middling house and put them near the top of the power rankings, just like right below the Targaryens. And with his marriage to Rhaenys and the acquisition of dragons, the Velaryons are almost on par with the Targaryens at this point, and that's largely just through Corlys. So it's kind of interesting seeing this insight into how he feels about his bastard children here, that he's proud of them for making their own way. And that's something that he sees in Alan that he really likes. He's proud of him for how far he's come, how dependable he is, how skilled he is for being a sailor and all of that. And for Adam here as well, he sees him claiming sea smoke as sort of a mirror of himself. And it makes a lot of sense for the character. It's not on the screen so much. This is one of the times I was glad for after the episodes, like explaining something a little bit more, how Corlys was feeling in this moment. But yeah, the sea snake is very, very happy to have a dragon rider in the family, and proud of Adam for essentially grasping for power the same way he has, sees himself in him. Yes, that's true, Luna Dark. Alan also saved his life. That too. But there's also, in this episode, he trusts Alan with the whole go get the Targaryen dragon seeds and bring them back plot. Like, just him. Guy pulls it off just immediately. So as we're sort of thinking about who will be the next in line for House Velaryon, Adam has made a pretty good showing for himself here. A dragon rider in charge of House Velaryon, and obviously Corlys' son. That's something. But this is kind of like also the situation that we saw previously with Baela, the idea of salt and sea or fire and blood. Adam is here showing himself to be fire and blood, and it's going to be up to Corlys more or less to decide what the future of House Velaryon should be. Should it be trying to be dragon riders, or should it be more embracing their heritage as the Salton Sea, as they say. But yeah, a lot out of that little scene. And now we get to the good stuff, the really good stuff. Mm-mm-mm. We are back in Harrenhal, guys. Although, I don't know if you guys noticed, no Alice Rivers. Alice nowhere to be seen in this entire sequence. Sort of. She is in the scene twice, but in not the way we're used to seeing her. Or this whole sequence with Daemon and Oscar and the River Lords and obviously Patty Considine. If you guys are smart, you in the chat could probably pick out where Alice shows up before I get to it. Which actually does happen a lot with my videos. There's like a lot of comments that more or less like say something like, oh, I wonder if you thought of this, and then there's an edit like 20 minutes later. It's like, oh, you were about to say that. Oh, that's so cool. That kind of thing happens to me a lot. She's not real. Yes, she is. She is undoubtedly real. Whether or not she looks like the way she does is another question. So this is very, very funny. For Daemon basically gets slapped around the entire time. And from, in his eyes, a little boy. And Daemon has to eat it. So what happens here is obviously Grover Tully has died. Oscar Tully has come to Harrenhal to meet with Daemon, and he has also called all the River Lords, as Alice promised would happen, that he's going to get the opportunity here to have Oscar deliver him the army he needs, whether it's for his own cause or for Rhaenyra's. Kind of the sign of things to come, which I thought was awesome. Oscar says to Daemon, "You'll forgive me, your grace. I am green in this sort of matter, so as you so kindly point out, but it does seem to me you've made rather a mess here. Countermancing barbarities in the Queen's name." Oscar's about to make Daemon pay for it. It's really good stuff. And it was also a really good line here. You see sort of the family duty honor from Oscar as he's seriously considering not siding with Daemon, which is obviously a dangerous thing to do with Craxes and Daemon's wielding around Dark Sister like a wiffle ball bat, just sort of like woo, 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 just all over the place. But Oscar thinks it through, and instead of going for what may be the more advantageous position, looking at how the war is shaping up with Maelys dead, the Hightower forces on the march, the Lannisters on the march, like, it's in Oscar's best interest here to turn down Daemon and side for the Greens. He might die for it, but if he can find a way to get away from Daemon, it might be the best thing. But what Oscar says is the Riverlands are held together by oaths. House Tully swore an oath to King Viserys. We recognize the authority of the named heir, Queen Rhaenyra, and you as her king consort. Pulling teeth with that one. And Oscar more or less says, like, hey, you know you messed up, right? Like, all my lords hate you. Nobody's going to want to fight for you. And Daemon's like, what do I need love for? I just need their swords. Oh, Daemon. It makes a difference when the people you're trying to rally to you don't like you, or their lords don't like you. I saw that sort of going around a lot on discourse about Daemon, where people were like, "Well, Daemon's a leader of men. He gets people to rally around him. He's a great leader. Like, why is he having such problems in the Riverlands?" And I think it's important to sort of unpack the moments when he's been a great leader, more or less. One of them was when he made a formal alliance with Corlys. So it wasn't Daemon commanding Corlys's troops. Corlys was commanding his own troops, and he was doing it in conjunction with Daemon. He didn't have to win the loyalty of House Velaryon. That was already done. He got it through his arrangement with Corlys. He's not having to go from hall to hall, castle to castle, trying to convince everyone to come on his side. He's done the easy way of just getting Corlys to do it for him. And also, another one that people like to point to is the Great Council of 101, where it said that Daemon raises a bunch of swords to his side in order to fight for Viserys. True, he does do that. Doesn't say how many, and it's kind of unclear who they were going to be fighting. They were sort of like it's not implied that he made like troops of tens of thousands march on Harrenhal to make sure of Viserys. It just says he gathered some swords to his cause. That could be like 20 guys. And yes, the other example is the Gold Cloaks. The Gold Cloaks is a very different thing because Daemon is more or less giving a bunch of lowborn guys power and a sense of purpose. That's very different from trying to convince a whole bunch of proud lords to more or less decide if they're going to put their lives on their line for you, and march to battle. This is a very different skill for Daemon than he's ever had to do before. And it kind of shows that he hasn't really had to deal with the reality of being a lord like he is here, where he's had to treat with vassals, and he's trying to kind of get people all on the same page, even people who don't like him. And he's used to basically being able to intimidate his way through it with Caraxes or Dark Sister, or just kind of his reputation. These are people who are not impressed by him. Can he win over people who aren't impressed by Daemon Targaryen? A very different challenge. It'd be like dropping Daemon in like the north and trying to rally everybody without the help of the Starks. It's a skill. And one that we've even seen that Rhaenyra isn't doing that hot with so far. Like, obviously the Vale kicked out her emissaries and didn't like their little bargain with the baby dragons. But anyway, so to get back to this here, let's see here. So Oscar Tully basically spends the next 5 minutes bashing Daemon to his face, saying that, what is it? What does he say? He says, "I have no love for Daemon Targaryen. He has dishonored himself in the crown with his comportment here. Nevertheless, having so little experience here to guide me, my best course is to defer to the oath my grandsire swore to King Viserys when he named Rhaenyra his heir. I see no reason to cast aside loyalty, no matter how loathsome I may find the representative, the prince." And during this time, Daemon's doing one of these. He's going. And I think the important thing is here, this is character growth for Daemon. Remember, season 1, he cuts off a guy's head, not for insulting him, but for insulting Rhaenyra for saying that her children are bastards, which they undoubtedly are. Season 1 Daemon probably would have killed Oscar here, and basically gotten on Caraxes and tried to threaten everybody into jumping behind him, and they probably wouldn't. You'd probably end up with basically just Will and Blackwood on his side. Here, based on what's been going on in the previous episodes, with him confronting, as Alice put it, how he gets blinded by anger and pride, Daemon sets aside his anger and pride for once and sort of takes his lumps in this moment. He's having to actually own up to mistakes. He's having to actually be a politician and be a good leader for once. He's having to actually swallow his pride, which is not a thing that Daemon Targaryen has really ever had to do in his life. And it's really the only path forward. He's not going to get Oscar Tully. He's not going to get the River Lords if he blows up here at Oscar. He's baiting him to. And sort of going with the idea, the running theme of sacrifice throughout this episode, Daemon is sacrificing something here as well. I mean, obviously he sacrifices Will and Blackwood when he cuts his head off, but Daemon has sacrificed his reputation. He has sacrificed sort of this image he has projected across the realm in service to himself, but also basically Rhaenyra. The two of them, the two causes basically the same. Daemon has to give up the idea that he's Maegor the Cruel, that he can just fly down on his dragon and kind of get what he wants and bully his way around and just kill his way. Daemon here has to be humble. He's never been humble his whole life, but it's the only way, and he unexpectedly does it. Was Oscar one of the lads? Yes, he is. Oscar's one of the lads. He is ladding really hard. This was also a great episode for Oscar Tully. The previous time we saw him, he was kind of very nervous around Daemon and didn't know what to say and didn't know what to expect from somebody like Daemon. He was clearly scared by the reputation of the man. Here, he's no longer scared of him. This is also, again, an after effect of Daemon threatening to kill all the Brackens and then them calling his bluff and him not doing it. There's been the fear of him as a person has been sacrificed. And of course, more than just the metaphorical one, there is a literal one here, a blood sacrifice to the Weirwoods. Obviously, Will and Blackwood, blood of the First Men, blood of the North. One of the very few devotees to the old gods in Westeros, south of the Neck. And he gets executed, his head chopped off in front of a Weirwood. Now, if you guys remember back to A Song of Ice and Fire, Bran, when he's going through his Weirwood dreams, and one of them he flashes back to is a woods witch, more or less, Alice, sacrificing a man in front of the Weirwood, and the blood goes onto the roots, and the roots drink up the man's blood, and Bran thinks that he can taste it. So that's more or less what's been done here. Alice Rivers, by killing Grover Tully and giving Daemon the opportunity to get the army of the Riverlands, has sacrificed Will and Blackwood to do it. She has sacrificed one of the devotees to the Weirwoods, to their religion, to it. Which is, again, one of those cool things to kind of keep track of as this is all going. All the people that die at Harrenhal as we're going through, there's going to be a lot more, obviously. But don't underestimate the significance of a first man, old god worshipping person having their blood spilled in a god's wood. That's a big deal. That means a lot to them, especially if we're talking about the idea of king's blood being worth something. Well, and Blackwood had king's blood a long time ago, but he has some, especially if you're sort of seeing it through the eyes of the Weirwoods. The Blackwoods are their favored sons. The Weirwoods and the Greenseers love the Blackwoods. Getting a lord to... Sacrificing a lord to them is something very different. Something potentially quite powerful. We'll kind of see what Daemon and Alice do with it. But more or less, Willem has paid for the Riverlander army. Maybe sort of a blessing of sorts coming their way, especially as the Starks are coming south at the moment. And then the end of the scene. Oh, also one thing to keep in mind here is that this isn't just a simple thing for Daemon to do. He's not only struggling with his loss of his pride and the ability to show humbleness and to make amends for mistakes. Daemon doesn't make amends for mistakes. He just kind of disappears, as Mysarius said it. He runs from them. When he has problems, he kills or he runs. He actually deals with it here. But one thing that he's sort of dealing with is the idea that Willem swore his life and his house to Daemon's cause. To Daemon. And Daemon has to give that up. He's giving up power here. He very well could have conquered the Riverlands with just the Blackwoods and started his own cause to get to the Iron Throne itself, and he gives that up. Very, very clever stuff here. And then Daemon walks back. Again, no sign of Alice, although obviously some people in the chat caught it. Where was Alice? Oh, well, watching through the Weirwood eyes as a Greenseer does. So she's not sighted during any of these scenes, unless somebody sees her in the background. I didn't catch her, but it doesn't mean she wasn't there. Laris has snuck his way in the background of scenes too. But yeah, if anybody sees Alice, I'd be very interested. But you can assume that she's watching through the Weirwoods itself. Hang on a second. Oop. Just going to move that around. There we go. So Daemon goes back to his room, and once again the visions are waiting for him. This time, Paddy Considine returns for his second episode back this season. And he has some words for Daemon. Daemon sits down and asks, "What is this?" And instead of answering his question, Viserys says, "I never wanted it. I was right to. All the pain it caused, it crushes whoever wears it. You always wanted it, Daemon. Do you want it still?" And he, as you see here, he holds the crown aloft for Daemon. He's offering it to him. And for... This is everything Daemon has ever wanted. This is what he wished Viserys had done, even on his deathbed. Not confirm Rhaenyra, but confirmed himself. That he can grasp for it. It's right in front of him. And for the first time, Daemon decides not to. He doesn't take the crown. He is a changed person. If you're looking for loyalty out of Daemon towards Rhaenyra, this is probably the start of it. Sort of working through that argument they had earlier in the season, the culmination here. I also really like the idea that they said after the episode that they initially just wanted Paddy Considine to be in the same costume he was in the previous episode, but Paddy insisted that he be the decrepit Viserys, that he be the one on the verge of death, in order to match the lines better and to match the scene. That he's offering Daemon basically a cursed future. You can have a crown, Daemon, but you may not like the cost of it. Which is, again, a running theme throughout this episode. The gods are offering every character everything they could want. But, you know, magic and prophecy are swords without hilts. There's always a cost to it. And here Daemon is being offered the crown and being shown the consequences of what it would be to take it. Like, if you really think through the idea of if Daemon really tried to take the crown, Rhaenyra's not going to let him. He's going to have to become a broken man. He's probably going to have to fight or maybe kill Rhaenyra. He might have to take out Jace. He might have to take out Joffrey if he's insistent that he be the sole monarch. He may not like what it does to his soul in order to grasp for power. And I think that's the an excellent little capstone, I'm guessing, more or less, for Daemon and Harrenhal. I know people were frustrated with these scenes and the pacing and kind of comparing this to the rest of what was going on in Westeros and like, what does it matter? And I think it's very, very intriguing the way they have used Daemon, the way they have explored his psychology and kind of looked into his heart and kind of turned over every stone so that we actually know him a lot better and we get to see character growth out of him. I don't know. This has been my favorite part of the season. Daemon, Harrenhal, Alice. This stuff has all been fantastic. I'm going to write a video about it, obviously. I have a lot more to say, but yeah, this stuff is great. Audience doesn't know if he takes the crown. Okay, that's fair. We don't... It cuts off before we see what he does, but I think based on what we just saw from Daemon and what he did in executing Willem Blackwood to secure, and the show of humility and remorse, and what we're seeing here from the vision being shown to him, I'm pretty sure Daemon doesn't reach for it. And speaking of someone who's being crushed by power, hey, Viserys come again. Interesting that Aegon is looking more like his father than ever. So what's happening here is Orwell's trying to give Aegon more or less physical therapy. He's trying to get him back on his feet, trying to get him walking. They've made a cane for him, apparently a very crappy one. Like, get Aegon a better cane. He's literally the king. But, so he's trying to get him to rehabilitate. But I'm not sure if everybody caught this, but I think something that's very interesting here is that Orwell's doing it on his own. And more than that, Larys says during the end of the scene that the sentry will give him more warning. This is all being done under the table. No, like, they're trying to get Aegon back on his feet under Aemon's nose. As far as Aemon's concerned, as we learn from the last episode, his instructions to Orwell were drug Aegon so I can rule longer. Here, Larys and Orwell are doing the opposite. They're trying to get Aegon back on his feet. Aegon back on his feet and trying to get him back into a position where he can take back the throne from Aemon. Which, by the way, tells us something very interesting. There was a previous episode where Orwell went to give Alicent moon tea, and then they talked about if Viserys really meant to put Aegon on the Iron Throne, and then Larys comes in later and notices the moon tea and seemingly knows what Orwell had been talking to him about. Here we are seeing more or less confirmation of how that was done. Larys has something on Orwell. He has power over him. Because if you read through the lines here, Orwell could be in a lot of danger if he actually gets caught defying Aemon's orders. He's doing it for Larys, and presumably for Aegon's well-being. And he doesn't want to. He's complaining this entire scene to Larys that he's being pushed too far, that this is a bad idea, that, you know, we need to let him sleep. And Larys says, absolutely not. Don't drug him. You need to get him better. And, Orwell just goes with it. So he's apparently more scared of Larys Strong than he is of Aemon, which is not something I think most people would have predicted based on the last few episodes with the way Aemon has been behaving. And there's also a little bit more context here. We haven't seen this in House of the Dragon so far, but under Maegor the Cruel, quite a lot of Grand Maesters lost their heads. When one of them did something he didn't like, You know, Maegor wouldn't fire him, wouldn't send him back to the Citadel. He just cut his head off. And Aemond is giving off to a lot of people Maegor the Cruel vibes. So this may be an act of kind of self-preservation from Orwell, that in a similar calculus that was done previously between Daemon and Viserys, that Aegon is seen as the more malleable king. And even though he's a little bit unpredictable and has some bad ideas, he's not overtly dangerous in the same way that Aemond is. So that could be some of what's going on with Orwell here, but it's definitely being framed as Orwell is more scared of what Larys will do to him for disobeying Aemond than not helping Larys, which I am very curious if they'll actually give us a taste of what that is. Like, what is he caught Orwell doing? What does he know about the man that would make him not fear Aemond, One-Eye, and Vhagar? Those are two pretty big things to fear, but Larys somehow, he's got him on a string. That's very intriguing to see what they're going to do with it. Also in the chat, you guys are saying, yes, he's being pushed too far too fast. Yes, absolutely. This is being motivated by the previous scene that we saw with the Aegoons losing their white cloaks and being sent to the wall. Larys is quite aware that Aemon has him next in line for council members to be shipped off to, who cares, I just want you out of my sight. So he's trying very, very hard, not out of altruism for Aegon, but because he thinks that Aegon might be able to save him and his position at court. So yeah, that was... Also, I think something that's not to overlook in this scene is that Aegon is going along with it. He doesn't have to. He could give up. He could not go along with this. He could call for his guards. He could call for more milk of the poppy. Clearly, Larys has motivated him. To keep, despite his scars, calling back to Alicent with Orwell. Obviously, the fact that mother and son here are going through a similar thing with Orwell, where trying to heal from an injury, not only like physically but emotionally. The idea that it's a scar, but you can just sort of keep moving, like Gwaine said. Aegon has not given up on life, which, given his situation and the fact that he fell on fire from Vhagar and his body is broken, he's in agonizing pain, like, you could definitely understand him just sort of milk of the poppy me out. Like, I don't want this. Much the way that Alicent is kind of grappling with, Aegon's going for it. He wants to be healed. He wants to get better. And I think that says something about his character, and it also says something about, I guess, Larys's ability to persuade him to choose to continue to live. So, yeah. Good stuff out of Aegon. I mean, yeah, he's trying. I mean, he's being forced to do it faster than he probably should, but he's not giving up. Why he's not giving up, I have a video written about that, but it could be something a little bit, well, we'll save that if I decide to release that one. But I think they're going to give Aegon more depth and sort of the idea of more motivation. Yeah, here we have also Larys saying, your progress is impressive. I'm afraid you must work harder. Your strength will return. There are adjustments to the gate and so forth that you will learn now that you are as you are. He stops short. It's actually really clever the way Matthew Needham does this. He starts to form the word see as if he's about to say the word cripple, and then stops himself and corrects it to that you are as you are. Still kind of being a lick spittle, but kind of delivering a message that Aegon needs to hear. Then we jump ahead to Spice Town. Here we have Alan of Hull, and he's talking with Corliss. The first thing he says is he's delivering the news that, Alan, you're being trusted with the secret mission. Make it work. Alan's like, of course I will. I'm great at everything. I'm an awesome son. You should make me your heir. More or less trying to prove himself. But also, Corliss delivers the news that apparently Alan hasn't figured out yet, that it's his brother Adam who has mounted Sea Smoke. And Alan is very surprised by this. Corliss asks him, sort of tells him about, he says, our people are of old Valyria, but we are no dragon lords. So Corliss is very, very clearly making it known to Alan that he's, at least on some level, acknowledging both of his sons as being his own. He's making it text. It's our family, you know. We are no dragon lords, except Adam, who now is a dragon lord. And you can sort of see Alan start to react to this. He's not used to it. This is exactly the opposite of the conversation him and Adam had in the previous episode, where he's like, don't hope for things that are never going to come. He's never going to treat us like family. He's never going to treat us like sons. And here you have Corliss doing it. Here you have him saying they are family, that he's a member of the Velaryon house. Not officially, like he's no longer Alan Waters, but this is close. And one thing that Corliss also does in this scene is he sort of pitches Alan on the idea of, like, you know, if Adam's a dragon rider, you could be one too. And Alan turns him down. This is what I said earlier. He turns that situation with Bela back on its head. When Bela turned down being the head of House Velaryon in the future, saying, I'm not Salt and Sea, I am Fire and Blood, Alan is saying the opposite. He is saying, I am not Fire and Blood, I am Salt and Sea. More or less making it known that, you know, the hope that Adam said was gone is not totally gone. He still wants to be recognized. He still wants to be Corliss's son, and now it's actually happening. But of course, again, the theme of be careful what you wish for. Being elevated to being the sea snake's son is dangerous, especially in wartime. He could live a quiet life just being a sailor on his ships. You become the heir of House Velaryon, and your life will change, and not necessarily for the best. This is a spoiler from Fire and Blood. I don't know if they're going to do this in the show. One of the things that happens is that Alan... Hang on a second. I'm just going to give you guys, like, few seconds here in case you're like folding your laundry, or if you're across the room and you want to pause it before I get to the spoiler part. In Fire and Blood, Alan does try and tame a dragon and gets badly burned, and Sea Smoke has to step in and basically, like, I think it's Sheep Stealer he tries with, and almost dies in the process of trying to tame the dragon. So this seems to be that they're going to change that Alan will not be trying to claim a dragon, or at least not yet. Here he's overtly saying, no, I don't want to try. Intriguing change. Also, by the way, if you guys are watching, slam that like button, subscribe if you've never been here before. Also, there's Patreon, there's YouTube memberships, all that stuff if you enjoy the stuff I put on for Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, obviously Night of the Seven Kingdoms coming up. Appreciate all the support in that stuff. But there's also a conflict here before we go on to the Veil for Corliss, in the idea that it's in his best interests probably put the Dragon Rider in charge of his family. But Alan is making the case that he's more committed to the identity of the Valarians as Corlys has made them into the seafaring juggernaut, the mercantile lords, more or less, that he wants to be, that he knows ships, he knows sailing, he knows the sea, he's Corlys's true son. Adam is the smart choice as the Dragon Rider. And I'm sure there'll be some conflict here between them. Anyway, spoilers at an end. And we go forward to... Oh, that's Corlys again. Rhaena in the Vale. I mean, people have complained about Daemon and Harrenhal. The Vale and Rhaena has been not a lot going on. Not a lot going on at all. They have really spread out like the 5 minutes of screen time in over like 4 episodes or something like that. So what's happening here is the kids are going down to the ship that Gay abandoned, and they're going to be taken to Pentos, to Prince Reggio's palace, I believe it is, with only 6 guards. By the way, why only 6 guards? These are the princes, the, like, possible future monarchs. Lady Jane, give them more than 6 guys to protect them on the way to Pentos. Jesus Christ. It's like you're trying to get them, like, in trouble. You're trying to get them caught, Lady Jane. But, anyway, so they're all being thrown out of the Vale at this point. Rhaena with them. Jane is completely unemotional about it. Clearly, she has not gone for the 2 baby dragons equals a big dragon gambit. No sign of the Vale men marching, massing, leaving with them. So you could call her a tenuous ally at the moment for Rhaenyra's side. But the important thing here is Rhaena has a choice before her. They have put her at the crossroads, and the question they're asking the character is, if you go down the path with Joffrey, well, I think Joffrey's staying behind. I think this is with Viserys and Aegon. Then you will have a life of, well, supposed luxury, more or less. You're going to go back and live as a Targaryen princess in Pentos with a prince. You're basically going to wait out the war. You're going to be the most important babysitter in the realm. That's one path for Rhaena. Comfort, but no glory. No real consequence, as it were. But if she goes the other way, then she can have a real impact and be an important player in what's happening. After the episode, they talked about this in detail, the idea that a lot of the characters here, and this is different from, well, no, okay, this isn't exactly different from Game of Thrones, but there's an idea here that the characters are all sort of at a crossroads as young people of what do they want their lives to be. These are not, middle-aged knights or lords who are trying to make up their minds about doing the calculus of who should I support and what's best for my house. These are these characters growing up before us, and Rhaena's having to decide, does she want the exciting life, but possibly dangerous one that Baela has, where she said, I want to die in Dragonfire as my mother and grandmother did? Or does she want to sort of, again, live an easy, comfortable life and sit out the war and hope things go okay? Is she willing to put this out of her hands? And Rhaena here says, with her actions, I want to be someone of consequence. I want to be someone that has a big part in this war. I want to have a dragon. And not just any dragon, a big freaking dragon. She wants Sheep Stealer. And goes for it. Obviously, Sheep Stealer's not claimed in this episode, but it's probably going to be the next one. That's her choice. down the road, the easy road, or is she going the hard road, the uncertain path, the dangerous path? Especially because we learned this episode, if you guys caught this earlier on, Rhaena basically was almost killed and eaten by sea smoke. So it's not like she doesn't know the consequences of facing a dragon. And not even one of the dragons that has been ridden before. We're not talking Vermithor. We're not talking Silverwing. We're talking wild dragon sheep stealer. Humongous, ornery, never known to be nice to people, never known to have a rider. No one's even gotten close. And that's kind of the path they're putting Rhaena down. Which is kind of exciting for her character because I guess this is kind of a spoiler. In Fire and Blood, her story is the easy one. She stays in the Vale of Joffrey. She avoids almost the entirety of the war. She finds a husband in one of the Corbrays. She eventually hatches a dragon, and that's kind of it. Her story more comes into the fray after the dance is over. So that more or less that would be writing her off as a character. And it's impossible to talk about this without also talking about the loss of Nettles as a character. Sheep Stealer is obviously Nettles' dragon in Fire and Blood. So looks like Nettles is getting cut, getting the old axe. Or at least there was a character that kind of looked like her. Well, we'll get to it in a little bit. When the dragon seeds are on their way to Dragonstone, but clearly they're going to give the Daemon Nettles relationship here to Rhaena, and they're going to make her a character of consequence. I personally think it's a bad idea to cut the only canonically person of color in Fire and Blood in Nettles, especially someone that has a lot of passionate fans and is somebody that means a lot to people and more than just her character arc, but for kind of how they relate to this story and someone they see themselves in. I guess the best we're going to have to do is hope, since that ship has sailed, Nettles is probably gone. We're probably going to have to hope that they make the best of it, and that Rhaena getting the Daemon part of Nettles' story is worth it, and that I think we're going to find out that Adam was lying pretty quick to Rhaenyra. Perhaps maybe between him, Hugh, and Ulf, maybe they sort of pick up the small folk aspect of it, the idea of someone being lowborn and struggling against the highborn, which is another part of Nettles' story. It's unfortunate. I wish they didn't do that, but this is it's kind of like, I'm hoping they make the best of a bad decision, I guess. I wish they had not cut Nettles. They did, apparently. Unless there's like some sort of crazy thing in the next episode where like she comes out of nowhere and Rhaena gives her Sheep Stealer or something like that. It appears she is cut, so that's unfortunate. Oh, hey, Alicia Kingston, how's it going? Aren't you normally streaming right now? Did you finish yours early, or am I going on a lot longer than I thought? It's not that late, although kind of late. Yeah. I think it was a poor planning decision to cut her and split her this way, just because of how, I mean, I said it in my last stream, and this is still largely true. Nettles is for a lot of people, she is their favorite character in this entire story, but it's a smaller group of the whole. But for those people, they are extraordinarily passionate about her. Like, losing her is a huge deal. It's for them, it's like, I don't feel this way about Nettles. I don't connect to her in that way. I sort of see her as a kind of like a secondary or tertiary character. But again, there's a lot more around her. And there's a lot of people who really latch onto her. It's not like cutting Edric Storm, where nobody really cares that he's gone. There's a lot of people that really care about her. So that's kind of a bummer. Hopefully they do well with the... yeah, I hope they do well with what they cut her for. That's kind of the only place we're at right now. You can't be so angry at the show that they're going to recut the next episode. So just kind of hoping for the best. Anyway, oh, got done 20 minutes ago. So it is a little bit longer than I thought. Next up, we have the Kingswood stuff. We'll come back to this a little bit later. Again, this is repeating her and Rhaenyra with Rickard. The parallels are fairly fast and furious Tokyo drifting on this one. So this is the big confrontation between Jace and Rhaenyra. So I got a question about this earlier with a super chat from Brian Holiday, and this is the big thing that sort of it all comes out. The idea that Jace is furious that she's going to let lowborns try and take dragons. Because to him, the idea that he is a dragon rider, the idea that he has Vermax, that he hatched a dragon, is core to his claim to be Rhaenyra's true heir. And for him, the idea that anybody else, any other bastard-born, low-born children, or I guess they're all adults. I don't think there's any children. Can have dragons too. Then what makes him special? But I think the part that that's really hurting Jace the most in this is that Rhaenyra wouldn't defend him as he is to the rest of the realm and to court. Now, she did defend him in the sense that she said, he's not a bastard, he's my real son. Viserys did the same thing with Vaemond. You know, somebody died for the lie that Jace is trueborn. But Rhaenyra never owned the fact to him personally and to the realm of who he is, and more or less saying, like, tough, he's my son, that's the only part that matters. She kept up the entire thing. She kept up the entire lie about Laenor, and even in private, like, he wasn't allowed to acknowledge who his real father is, his real identity, and it's been this problem. But as soon for Jace, I think from his perspective, now this is going to be illogical and emotional because it is for Jace. Now she's willing to do that. Now she's willing to acknowledge bastards are useful and important to her and worth having on her side, but not previously. That she denied it, and that she would rather squash the rumors than defend them. Here she's doing the opposite. She's like, all right, whatever. It's useful now, so I'm going to do it. And I think that's kind of what Jace is getting at here. That she's finally willing to acknowledge bastards. She's finally willing to acknowledge their use to her, that they are important. But now, not for him and not for his brothers. Not for their own sake, I think is kind of the point. I think the line, did you think I would have dark hair? When he took Harwin Strong into your bed, did you think I would favor him, or did it not cross your mind? I'm no fool, mother. The proof is here for all to see. Yet I may argue my legitimacy to succeed with you because I have a dragon, and now you say you will strip that from me too. Yeah. That one's got to suck for Jace. Especially the idea that he's had to not actually talk about it. He's not been able to connect with his father. Basically not really able to talk about Harwin Strong with Rhaenyra, even though we know in private Jace is aware of it. He asked the question when he was 9. He understands who Harwin is. It's just been kind of simmering, and now it's all sort of bubbling out, which I think is kind of interesting that Jace was 100% okay with like distant cousins having dragons, but someone like him, that can't be allowed. And I think it's sort of, I wonder if they're almost calling back to Ramsay Bolton a bit, where his best insult for people after he got made from Ramsay Snow to Ramsay Bolton was he called everybody a bastard, and he used it with venom. And I think that's a little bit of what's going on here with Jace being sort of self-loathing about his bastardy. Yeah. That's sort of my take. I was confused the first time watching this through and trying to track Jace's emotions and what he's really getting at, and I think that's kind of it. That he, yeah. I'm not gonna repeat myself. I think that's, I may be wrong, but that was sort of my read on sort of the between the lines of what's really driving Jace to his rage in this moment. So next we'll jump ahead to, this is kind of a long sequence where Alinda Massey gets the letter from Alan, and she goes around spreading the word to all the Targaryen bastards that they're all being invited to Dragonstone in order to be allowed to try and claim dragons. The most important parts of the sequence is obviously Ulf with his bros. Ulf doesn't want to go. He's quite scared of it. He is aware that dragons could kill him, and as he says to the guys kind of quietly, I'm not sure it's true. Like, I think I'm a Targaryen bastard. That's certainly what his mother told him, but if he's wrong, and if he can't tame a dragon, he's gonna die. They're putting it on the other side of the coin. They're like, Ulf, if you go for it, you could be a dragon lord. Like, you could get everything you want. And again, the running theme of giving you everything you want. Ulf, here it is. Silver platter. You ride a dragon, you are a Targaryen. Bastard's going to be written off your name. You're going to end up Ulf whatever. Lord of something, most likely at some point. Dragon riders rule this world. Ulf has the opportunity to get it. But there's a downside. It could kill him. It could, he's pretty happy being the town popular drunk guy. He, yeah, the sword without a hilt keeps coming up in this episode, and here it is for Ulf. Also, this goes back to what a commenter said earlier in the stream. They were asking me about, like, how does Larys and the Greens not know about this? Especially here in this scene. These guys are not, they're like, this entire bar is openly talking about it, and they're talking loud. They even get a chant going saying, Ulf the Dragon Lord, Ulf the Dragon Lord. Apparently, again, this goes back to the question about Larys. If he has proven himself to be an extremely good master of whispers, but apparently the entire city is talking about Rhaenyra's offer for dragon riders to come to Dragonstone to challenge and try and ride them themselves, and he doesn't hear a thing about it. Or if he does hear a thing about it, he's not telling Aemond. So, it's, on one hand, you have suspension of disbelief, and the other side, you have to ponder, what is he doing here? Why is he letting this happen? kind of interesting, especially with earlier in the episode, Jasper Wilde telling Laris about the new dragon rider, and then being like, well, who could it be then? This should be the confirmation, all the confirmation Laris would need. Like, oh, it must have been a lowborn. That's why they're calling for Targaryen bastards. Some lowborn Targaryen managed to claim sea smoke. That's why they're asking for them. Oh, okay. I got put this all together. It all makes sense. But yeah. Question emerges again. Laris is either really bad at his job, even though he seemed to be really good at it, or he's not passing along whispers to Aemond. Curious. What is it? What was the line that they said that I thought was really good? It's like, can I see a little glimmer? They call Ulf's smile a glimmer. Just a little ding. He's got one of those going. Love to see it, Ulf. His empathy for Aegon has him distracted. He seemed off the last few episodes. That could be it. This is a pretty big rumor for nobody to hear about, but you never know. Yeah, Ulf has a lot of charisma. He is maybe the most charismatic character on the show right now. Tom Glencarney was really holding that down for a while, but Ulf is he has risen up this show. God, am I too old to say Riz? One in chat if I can say Riz, two if it's cringe and I should stop. Thank you for your service. Next up, we get the other side of the coin. We have Hugh and Kat. A lot of people in a previous episode thought, boy, it sure looks like their daughter's dead. She looked pretty gray. Turns out, yes, Kat and Hugh's daughter has died off screen. I'm guessing that's a cutting room floor kind of thing. When they went from 10 to 8 episodes, they cut the daughter's death. That's too bad. Okay, too old for Riz, apparently. The conversation here is another sort of turning point thing. Similar to Rhaena. Almost the exact same offer as Rhaena. Kat is offering Hugh, we'll go to Tumbleton, we'll find you work, we'll find you food, my brother lives there, everything will be great, but it will be a quiet life. We'll basically be waiting for this war to hopefully not come to us as it already has. It has already taken our daughter, but maybe we'll survive another few days before all this awfulness comes back to us. And be cringe, be free. I am very cringe, so that one checks out. And Hugh's argument is basically voicing exactly what Rhaena, after the episode said about Rhaena. Hugh wants to have a life of consequence. He wants to be able to make himself a lord, to pull him and Kat out of being powerless, of having no control in their life, waiting for things to happen to them. Basically the same as Rhaena. We also get the interesting line here. So actually, I'm going to put up a poll for this one. Hang on a second. Because I went back and forth trying to decide if this is what we're supposed to think. So we're going to start a poll on this one. So Hugh says, I never knew my father, that much is true, but I did know my mother. I hid it from you, I'm sorry for that. She worked in a pleasure house. She was granted more freedom than most because of who she was. And because rich men paid more to F a woman with silver hair. She used to tell me I was no different than her brother's boys, Viserys and Daemon. But I was ashamed of her. I tried to make my way with my own hands. I could not protect you. I could not keep our girl alive. And now we would never want again. If I claimed the dragon, they'd make you a lady. So, if you guys aren't aware, there's a character in Fire and Blood named Sarah Targaryen. And she is one of the daughters of Jaehaerys and Alysanne, and her story is that she ended up being a famous pleasure house worker over in Essos, and basically she brought out all the misogyny in Jaehaerys that was possible. It all erupted at her. And during the Great Council, a few of her kids tried to show up and basically push their claim and got roundly rejected. What's different here is that Sarah's supposed to have lived in Essos, not in King's Landing, from what I remember. She more or less uses her position and her name and kind of the pleasure houses over in Essos to more or less make herself like a half ruler of one of the cities. I think it's Lys. Ends up being kind of, you know, a major character, and Jaehaerys is. So, really, really, like, basically causes a rift between Jaehaerys and Alysanne. They more or less get divorced over his treatment of Sarah. How he basically wishes she was dead, and etc., etc. So, Hugh being Sarah's son, and so Sarah saying her brother's boy is Viserys and Daemon, which means her brother would be Balon, which means Balon the Brave, and Alyssa is her siblings. So the idea that Hugh Hammer being Sarah's son and getting Vermithor would make Viserys basically, if he had a corpse, the Targaryens don't, they burn their dead. He would be spinning in his grave knowing that. No, Sammy, I think it's Sarah's son. That's what he said. My mother, she said, no different to her brother's boys, which means her brothers, that would be her nephews. That would make Viserys and Daemon her nephew, which would make Hugh her son. And Hugh's an older character here, so that kind of makes sense. I think you could also read this as we've seen in previous scenes that there are apparently Targaryen women working in the brothels. I think you could read it that way, that, like, for instance, Ulf says that, I think he calls Viserys and Daemon his half-brothers or something like that. So I think you could read it as it's not deliberately Sarah. But I think the thematics of making Sarah's son claim Vermithor is too delicious for it not to be intentional. I think they're doing that on purpose as an FU to Jaehaerys' misogyny and his treatment of his daughter. That's my... they didn't confirm that after the episode. I think you could read it both ways. I think you could read it as this is just a bastard pleasure house worker. Or I think you could read it as Sarah Targaryen. It would just mean that Sarah came back to Westeros, or Hugh came to Westeros from Essos at some point. That would be basically the main difference you'd have to put in. That he didn't grow up in King's Landing, I guess. But yeah, so that's kind of fascinating from Hugh. Then we get the bastards getting onto the Dragonseeds getting on. I wonder if this can get demonetized for me saying bastards like 10,000 times. I hope not. They're all getting onto the boats. Apparently nobody noticed. Down here, hang on a second. Let me pull this up. This is the character that everyone thought was Nettles. She's the only person of color, I think, that gets on the boats. I don't know if we see her. She must be in the background somewhere. When they get there and Rhaenyra gives her big speech and then Vermithor goes on his rampage. But a lot of people thought this character here... Oh, hang on. this character here was Nettles. Which would suck because it means they would have killed her like 5 minutes later. I hope that's not her, but you never know. Courtney Mazza says, I like them making him Sarah's son in the books. Her sons try to claim the throne instead of Sarah's. Yes, that is a plot line. They all show up and they all get rejected for, woman, but also because being bastards. And Sarah basically, nobody likes Sarah at this point. None of the lords want to make her or her lineage, part of the realm. Also, she didn't have political support in Westeros. That's part of the thing about who got considered in the Great Council of 101. Part of it was best claim, but also a lot of it was support. Rhaenys had Corlys and the Velaryons, and that made a big difference. Well, he's in. Okay, so this guy says he didn't say he was in King's Landing or grew up in King's Landing, but he is there now. So he got there somehow. We know Sarah spent most of her life in Essos after being basically kicked out of the court by her father. So yeah, either Hugh migrated back from Essos or Sarah did as well, and they're making a change about where she lived. So one of those two has to be true for him to be there and to be Sarah's son. Anyway, so I'm hoping that's not Nettles and that they just straight up murdered her. Oh, so super chat from MI, $2. Why did Ulf fly over King's Landing, Joyride, or Aemon bait? Thank you for the question. So, kind of getting ahead of it, but I think we're meant to understand that Ulf has no control over what's happening right there, and that it is a Silverwing is more or less giving herself a joyride. That it's said in the text that her and Silverwing and Alysanne really enjoyed flying, and Silverwing basically hasn't gone flying with a rider in like 3 decades. So I think that's more or less what's going on there. That Silverwing is the one in control, and she's enjoying going home to King's Landing and flying over the city again with a rider, and it's like, oh, this is cool. And Ulf is just like, oh my god, like he's acting it like he's on a roller coaster. So I don't think he's doing it. I think Silverwing's doing it. But thank you for the super chat, appreciate it. So now we'll get to the culmination of the Kingswood stuff. So in the after the episode, they had Olivia Cook and Ryan Condal explain this a lot. They gave a pretty big percentage of the after the episode to explaining what's going on here with Alicent. And both of them more or less confirm that Alicent is thinking about killing herself. That she's thinking about just drowning herself in this lake. That's the reason that she didn't have any handmaidens, why she doesn't have a retinue, why it's just Sir Rickard. She's thinking, especially with the threat of her being sent to the Iron Islands to be married to the Red Kraken, and basically being a pawn in her vindictive son's grasp, that she doesn't feel like she has much to live for anymore. And she's kind of considering just letting herself float away. Although apparently her sort of floating out into the water and kind of having this moment for herself and looking up in the sky and apparently seeing that bird fly overhead. Both Olivia and Ryan said that we're supposed to understand in that moment that Alicent has found new purpose. That she's decided much like Aegon with struggling with his injuries, and if he wants to continue trying, if he wants to get back to ruling, Alicent in the same boat has also decided that she wants to she wants her life to continue and that she wants to have some sort of purpose. What that is, I'm not really sure. They were both pretty coy about it. There's no indication from the scene about what she's looking at, about what she's doing, what she said to Rickard that could give a hint to it. They're more or less just saying that she's going to give life another shot for whatever purpose that is. I don't really know. All right. Carl, have some empathy for Alicent. This has been a pretty rough go for her. And it's not a competition to say who has had the most bad things happen to them. That's not how depression, that's not how the suicidal thoughts work. It's not a... There's not like, you must be this much suffering to feel that way. Like, give her a break. So then we go back to Dragonstone, and all the bastards have arrived, and Rhaenyra's sort of looking over them like, ooh boy, what are we doing here? So the interesting part here is that the Dragon Keepers are revolting against Rhaenyra. So far we've had her council tell Rhaenyra this is a terrible idea and they don't approve it, except for Corlys, who's pretty happy it's Adam. Jace has come out and said this is a terrible idea, don't do it. Mysaria said, yes, go for it. Like, this is great. Like, help the small folk. We can do something with this. They'll be on your side, etc., etc. The Dragon Keepers have decided, absolutely not. We have no part in this. We will have no part in letting you just throw a bunch of dragon seeds at the wall and see who sticks, more or less. Their argument, which is kind of an interesting one, is the head dragon keeper says, you said an Andal before a dragon. The judgment was delivered. Now you would said more. It's blasphemy. He was no dragon lord, neither are these. So we're getting the sense that the dragon keepers are sort of the last vestige of the Valyrian religion, the worship of the dragon gods. These might be the only guys left in the world that still do that. For those of you who may not know, the Valyrian religion was literally, if most of them didn't have one, a lot of the dragon lords were more or less agnostic or atheist, that they kind of believed themselves to be the gods. They were so powerful. There were sects that started different religions, like the bearded priests came out of that. And there were other religious cults that sprouted up, but the official religion of Valyria was dragon worship, more or less. And that's what these guys are giving to saying to Rhaenyra, like, you guys have already converted to the Seven. You are marrying outside your bloodline. You're giving random people access to these dragons. This goes against the religion of Valyria. It's blasphemous. We won't have a part in it. So, yeah, this is way more about the faith of worshipping dragons than it is about, like, what's the right way of saying this? They're believers in the Valyrian hierarchy. They're believers in the dragon gods and exceptionalism. Like, that's more or less what these guys are saying. And Rhaenyra's tearing it up and throwing it in their faces, which she is. They're right. That is explicitly what she's doing. She's saying the Valyrians aren't special. She's saying anybody can ride them. The whole incest, ritualized incest, all this stuff, they've gone back thousands of years. Doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah. True. That is literally what she's saying. So, and they walk out. I've had a theory for a while that these Dragon Keeper guys are like the last priests of Valyria, and this kind of more or less confirms that idea. which I would wonder what their name and if they have like a cool Valyrian name for them. Kind of like the Septons of Valyria, the last ones. So Rhaenyra says, and yet the gods have set them before us. You have set them before yourself. The dragons are sacred. They are the last magic of old Valyria in the sad world. They are not playthings for the games of men. Our order will take no part. They're out of here. They're Dunsky. Yeah. A lot of religion and the idea of gods favoring and prophecy and all that stuff really coming up in this episode, and a lot of blasphemies. Kind of like I said, in a similar way, Willem Blackwood getting executed before a Weirwood is pretty similar to what's going on here. Oops. I am not Rhaenyra. Let me get her in frame. So Rhaenyra goes into the Dragonseeds and gives this big speech. They said after the episode that they wanted this to feel like a religious cult, that they wanted to have Rhaenyra basically acting as a pastor or a shepherd, and that these were all her new flock, more or less. So I think the speech here is very interesting. She says, perhaps it is blood or worth, or perhaps something else. Each of you has left behind a life to answer this call, a life to which you might never return. Cult shit. If you survived, you'll be transformed. No man or woman can face a dragon and be otherwise. Some of you may welcome the prospect of change, even death, given the alternatives. Privation, starvation, war. This is our purpose, to end those hardships, for you and your kin, for all the realm. With 2 dragons added to our number, the enemy will have no choice but to give way and peace will be restored. Suffering will be ended, and without bloodshed, God's willing. Gods are cruel. The dragon named Vermithor is the largest in the world after Vhagar, and perhaps the most fierce. Leaving out the cannibal, apparently. Also going straight for Vermithor is a choice. Not sure about that one. He's called the Bronze Fury. We'll go to him now, and may the gods bless you. Interesting that she just got basically called a heretic by the Dragon Lords, and here is Rhaenyra basically saying, like, none of you guys heard that, right? Okay, so yeah, this is, the gods are blessing us, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is our purpose. It's more or less divine, what we're going to be doing here. Dragons are bigger than any human, etc., etc. So, yeah, there's really a lot being bought into here by Rhaenyra with the whole prophecy. She's starting to drink the Kool-Aid, as it were. A lot of cult shit going on. Jonestown Vermithor style? Yeah, kinda. Very Jonestown what goes on here. I hope they have transferable skill sets. Not much use for dragon keepers anywhere. Yeah, those guys really high Valyrian translators, experts with hitting dragons on the snoot with sticks, looking for work. I guess they could go back to the Greens and work in the dragon pit. They're in trouble. No thought of going to Silverwing. Grey Ghost. Why don't we try the easy ones first? Kind of get your confidence up. Let's kind of smooth our way into this. Nope. Vermithor. Vermithor is the one that matters. And that's kind of the utilitarian idea that's going through Rhaenyra right here. The most important thing is that she needs a dragon that can challenge Vhagar. And that's Vermithor. Actually, I talked about that in the video that's up on my channel that I released today, that Vermithor is very, 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 very much the Bronze Fury. He is cranky, He is angry. He will kill at will and has a terrible, terrible temper. Silverwing is basically a cute, cuddly dragon who will boop you on the nose if you get out of line. Vermithor will kill you without a second thought. So Rhaenyra's whole thing here is, if this is going to work, it has to work with Vermithor. Don't need Silverwing's good to get, but without Vermithor, the whole thing falls apart. So yeah, really setting up all these people like, what's the quote from Shrek? It's like, a lot of you are about to die, but I'm willing to make that sacrifice. Is that it? Somebody knows Shrek better. What's that quote that the prince makes? You're all gonna die, but for a good cause. Peace. Ending the war. Things will be great. Oh, thank you, Courtney. I'm glad you enjoyed the video. So they go to the dragon landing pad, and Rhaenyra, without the dragon keepers, has to call Vermithor. And apparently she does it without the song. She just says, "Come forth, Vermithor," and Vermithor is like, "Ayo, what's up? What's up, girly? What's going on? You called me? You texted me? What's going on?" So this is something that I picked up on the episode, and I'm not sure how intentional it's supposed to be or not. There's a very odd connection here between Rhaenyra and Vermithor. Oh, there it is. Some of you may die, but sacrifice I'm willing to make, Subi says. Thank you so much. Yes, that's the exact quote. That's more or less what Rhaenyra is saying here to the Dragonseed. It's like, you're all dead, but if one of you gets it, it's worth it for me, so... Hey! Again, blood sacrifice, that kind of stuff. And not only is Rhaenyra able to call forth Vermithor just by saying it, there's a very odd connection between the two of them, where she's able to command him to be calm and to serve very easily. If you compare what she does to Vermithor, it's exactly the same as Hugh. Vermithor does the slow blink thing, sniffs her and decides she's okay, lets them both touch their snout, and they do this both weird thing where they both, Vermithor and Rhaenyra both close their eyes at the same time, almost like there's some kind of like connection going on between them. And the way that Rhaenyra talked about Vermithor, and kind of the high regard she holds the dragon in, it almost felt like, could she have jumped on his back? There was like, he was listening to her and was going to do whatever she wanted in that moment. I wonder if this is sort of kind of her change in attitude, the idea that she wants to be more like Visenya, and that Vermithor would be more the kind of dragon that Visenya would ride, like Vhagar. You know, a dragon of war, the bronze fury, the kind of thing that would send your enemies quaking. That's the kind of dragon Vermithor is, not Syrax. Syrax is relatively young and has really no shot against Vhagar. And there's also sort of a sense of regret on her face that you can read on Emma's face, as Vermithor gets claimed by Hugh, like, almost like, that should have been me. I don't know. They showed a very strange amount of connection between her and Vermithor. I think it would have been... I don't know what they're implying, but it would have been kind of cool if, like, she could have jumped on his back. I think he would have let her. Certainly Damon got a similar level of kind of after his song and stuff with Vermithor, he just kind of sat there and looked at him. But this seemed different. But yeah. So Rhaenyra's line is actually, I found the first sequence here, this part of it, very funny. And the reason being that um, she she turns around with Vermithor behind her and says, "Who among you would be first?" And Silver Dennis walks up. If you guys didn't know, that was Silver Dennis from Fire and Blood, the guy with kind of like the half-burned face or whatever it was. And she says, "I have nothing more to tell you. It must be the dragon who speaks." And then she and like her posse are just like, "Go, go, 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 go! Get out!" Oh, sorry. Get out of here. Oh my god, get out of here before the Vermithor just starts killing people. And she leaves behind the guards to make sure that nobody can get out, goes up on her thing, and like literally just like oversees the carnage. Just like the speed that she just power walked her way out of there was, I think, I'm not sure if it was supposed to be played for comedy, but I thought it was hilarious. I was like, oh shit, Rhaenyra, you really just left these people to die. Um, that was unintentionally very funny. Um, and then Silver Dennis sort of goes up to her, and Vermithor kind of like sniffs at him, and then more or less kind of like goes over the whole crowd with his snout, and it's more or less, you sort of get the feeling that he's kind of like sniffing out if there's more somebody to connect with among them. And there is a moment where you actually see that Vermithor locks eyes with Hugh for a second. And then Vermithor says, "Actually, you know what? Screw you all. Get out. I will have nothing to do with you. Not you, Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra, you're cool. I'm not going to touch you." And just absolutely unleashes and goes full, like Jurassic Park with fire mode, killing everybody in his path, burning them alive, eating them left and right. I think they use the sound effect from Jurassic Park when the T-Rex like eats people. Also, they were definitely using kind of the roar from a T-Rex kind of mixed with Godzilla at a certain point, really to drive home how Vermithor is a gigantic angry beast. Like Vermithor tries to kill Hugh, tries to kill him a couple times. So it's not like he instantly went like, "You, I like you." There was like a little locking eyes of the thing, but just straight up started killing people, knocking those that survived off the causeway, killing. Certainly among a lot of those people, a bunch of them were part Targaryen. I don't think we're supposed to believe that none of them did. They certainly paid for the wig budget on them. Just absolute menace and mayhem. Again, this is Rhaenyra watching it happen. Also note, we just established that Vermithor will basically do whatever Rhaenyra wants. Listens to her, lets her pet him, had a weird bonding moment between the two of them. While this is all happening, she just sort of watches. No serve Vermithor, no calm Vermithor, nothing. All right, just let it. She just kind of lets him get on with his business, and there's sort of a feeling of, again, like the kind of the blood sacrifice thing going on here, where Rhaenyra is just willing to let this play out. She clearly told the guards before they went in there, "Don't let any of them leave. Like, you have to hold them in order to see if any of them can ride this dragon at any cost. Like, I don't care how many of them die. Like, we got to get somebody on this dragon. I don't care who." But yeah, she she could have done something here. Does nothing, just kind of watches. Not really in horror. I mean, there is sort of like an aspect of her like, wow, this is ridiculous. But also a part of it is this kind of like, it almost looks like she's looking at it as, is this working? Is anybody going to figure out how to claim this dragon? Ooh, that's a good point, Chemical Expo. It felt like he could have burned them all in one breath because he was playing around with them or calling awake. Yeah, he was. Vermithor was having fun. Was having a lot of fun hunting humans. Just really having a great time roasting them one by one and knocking them around, and yeah, really just having a great time with the dragon seeds. I don't think most got out. I think a few got out. As they were bunching up against the guards who were holding them back, Vermithor went out, let out a huge blast and killed like 20 people at the same time. Pretty messed up. Ulf survives, grabs a torch and runs for it. Good stuff, Ulf. So here's the hero shot. Hugh Hammer. Hugh the Hard Hammer? Yeah. The blacksmith essentially convinces Vermithor to stop his rampage. And what ends up doing it, because, again, he could have looked at Hugh at the beginning and given him a little nuzzle and been like, I like you. Clearly, Vermithor was waiting for somebody to prove themselves, and Hugh does it. Hugh is hiding behind a rock with a woman, and the two of them make a run for it, and Vermithor goes over to kill the woman. He's loading up his fire, is about to eat him, and Hugh basically shouts out, hey, no. What does he exactly say? He says, here I am, and then he yells, I'm ready, come on. And Vermithor is like about to breathe fire, and it's very similar to what we saw with Aemon and Vhagar, where Vermithor came really, really close to killing Hugh, but I think you're supposed to read into the idea that it was kind of the nerve and the bravery to stand in his face is what convinced the dragon to warm up to Hugh. Somebody that's worthy of his respect is, I think, what we're supposed to read into what's going on here. But again, there did seem to be that little moment they showed us, the two of them looking at each other when he was up on the thing. But kind of gotta love the pose from Hugh here. Really maxing out. You can see the muscle on that guy. And then we get so this is identical shot to the one that Rhaenyra had just a few minutes earlier. Vermithor does all the same cues, does the slow blink, puts its nose down, lets Hugh pat him on the nose, all the same stuff. So yeah. Pretty impressive. The Bronze Fury claimed by the blacksmith, the son of Sarah Targaryen. Basically, this entire image is a giant FU to Jaehaerys, which I appreciate the show doing. Not enough like Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire media really throws it in Jaehaerys' face enough. And this is fan service, and I really do like the idea that they made him Sarah's son, and that he gets to claim Jaehaerys' dragon. It's incredible. Love it. They almost make Vermithor look cuddly after he was literally tearing people apart and burning them alive a minute ago. I guess that's kind of the nature of dragons. And then we get Rhaenyra. Again, kind of, it's hard to read the look on her face. Some part of it is satisfied. Some part of it is like scared of what's to come. Some part of it is like, you can almost feel righteousness in it. This feels a lot like Stannis to me. Where it's like the die is cast. She's done something there's no coming back from. The second biggest dragon in the world has been claimed by a blacksmith, and the only way she has control of him is that he swore, he gave an oath. And they're all in danger now if Hugh decides to turn on them the same way they depend on Daemon. It's like she's just kind of moved the problem to even less predictable people, but with more dragons. Adam does have Targaryen blood. In the books, Corlys does have, I believe, a Targaryen like grandmother or great grandmother or something like that. So he does have Dragon Lord blood, and it's there's a line that there's a whole bunch of Valyrian and Targaryen marriages we don't know about going back and forth. So it's not that Corlys has none and Adam has none. And certainly here, they're being quite explicit that Hugh does have Targaryen blood with his story about Sarah. Like, that's way too correct a story to just be made up. And Ulf is a little more uncertain, but let's go ahead to Ulf. Dragon rumbling. Perfect. So Ulf runs away from Vermithor, killing people, makes his way into the dragon caverns, and whoops-a-daisy, he steps in one of the dragon egg patches things, and almost breaks a couple of the eggs that are sitting there. And Ulf more or less is like, oh shit, because as he does this, he hears a dragon howling. Behind him is Silverwing. Again, remember what I said earlier, and in the video I made today. Silverwing is a very kind dragon. Silverwing is far less violent, far more willing to like not kill people. As far as we know, Silverwing's never killed anybody in her entire life. It's entirely possible no humans have died to Silverwing. So when Ulf, again, I'm sure people who don't know the history of the dragon were very confused about what was happening here. So yeah, I'm just going to give folks on the non-book reading side a little bit of a primer here. That's what's going on here. Silverwing is such a nice, kind, unviolent dragon that even though Ulf just almost stepped on and broke a bunch of eggs that are apparently hers in her presence, Silverwing's response to Ulf is more or less to give him a boop with the nose and say, get away from those. Vermithor just killed like dozens of people for merely standing in front of him. Silverwing's like, hey, come on, man. Don't be a dick. Get away from those. Don't do that. This is the dragon of good Queen Alysanne. Much more... You're supposed to sort of see the dragons as kind of representative of the writer's personality in some cases. So the fact that Vermithor is a tremendous violent dick that kills people all the time is meant to be a reflection on Jaehaerys. And Silverwing doing this is a reflection on Alysanne as a character. It's a classic thing George likes doing. He loves mixing and matching and using them more or less to tell you something about the writer. But yeah, just a cute little bonk like, hey man, get away from those. Hey, shoo, hush, get away. Didn't kill him. She growled a little bit. She was like not happy, but didn't kill him. And pushes him into like a black pit of dragon goo. I don't know what that was. And basically bows to Ulf as he's sitting there. So they put some effort in after the episode to kind of explain what's going on here, because it's much more obvious with Hugh and Vermithor. What they said about Silverwing and Ulf is that, let's see here, that Ulf, they said every fiber of his body wants a quick death, and apparently Silverwing, from Ryan Condal's perspective, liked that Ulf showed her deference, that he wasn't trying to dominate her, that he wasn't ordering her around, that he more or less surrendered, went like, you are in control here, like you're the boss, more or less. And apparently that, and I guess the Targaryen blood connection, because I believe we're supposed to understand that Ulf is Balon the Brave's son, so another grandson of Jaehaerys and Alysanne. Silverwing, I guess, recognized that, but also Ulf acted in the way that Silverwing found appealing. I think there also is an interesting question of, if anybody had run in there, would Silverwing have accepted them? I'm guessing no, because what we've seen with Hugh and Vermithor is that Vermithor was looking for behavior. Clearly, the dragon was looking for something. Even though everybody there had Targaryen blood, there was a connection that the dragon was looking for. And it found it in Hugh, the same as Sea Smoke found in Adam. And clearly here with Silverwing, there's not just... they all have a blood connection, but there's something more that the dragons want. And for whatever reason, the same is true for Rhaena. She's been rejected by a bunch of dragons so far, even though she has all the bloodlines. So, yeah, they've been making a point that the dragon chooses the rider, and this is once again the same example. Silverwing decided that Ulf fit the bill. Why didn't Rhaena try and mount Silverwing? Apparently she tried to mount Sea Smoke. I'm guessing because she knows Sea Smoke, maybe? Or maybe because it was her uncle's dragon. I think that's her... yeah. It was like the Valarian dragon, so that's why she tried. Like, we saw during season 1 when Lhaena died, both Lhaena and Baela wanted Vhagar for themselves, calling on the direct family connection. So maybe that's kind of what's going on here. For some reason they need to tell us the reason other than the reasons. They're not going to tell us. George hasn't told us it either. Like, the problems... if you have problems with how the dragons choose their riders, the same ones exist in Fire and Blood. And in A Song of Ice and Fire. Like, there are no answers coming unless George put them in the Winds of Winter, or A Dream of Spring, which he said he's going to, but who knows when those show up. But yeah, I do kind of like it that way. I like it that there's not just like everyone, like a Targaryen just goes up and demands fealty from a dragon and it immediately says, yeah, cool, you got the right bloodline, we're good. I think it makes a lot more sense with how deep the bond is, that it's not just a blood pact on its own that allows it to happen. That there needs to be something that clicks between the two of them, where whatever that ends up being. It appears to be different from dragon to dragon. Like, Hugh wanted, Vermithor wanted somebody that could stand up to him. Silverwing here is apparently after somebody that respects her. And not as a show of force, but as she is. Not for, like, the destruction she can do. Ulf more or less, like, bows before her and says, like, oh my god, don't kill me. It's magic. And hopefully, kind of curious what we're going to do with Rhaena, because they don't have enough time to have her do the sheep thing. So, I'm guessing next episode we're going to see her claim sheep stealer. So next up we have a small council room meeting. We hear that Daeron has jumped on Tessarion. Prince Daeron, if you're not aware, Prince Daeron is Alicent's other son, the one we haven't seen yet, the one who plays the lute and is popular with the babes and is kind and stalwart. During the march, while the Beesberries and some of the other Reach houses are attacking the high towers, apparently Daeron has jumped on Tessarion. Tessarion's pretty small. Small is relative here. Like, small compared to, like, Vhagar and Vermithor. I'm guessing Tessarion's like the size of... Drogon's probably too much. Maybe like Rhaegal and Viserion from the main series. Basically, almost barely... no, by the end of the show, they got pretty big. Maybe like season 5 or 6 Drogon is about the size of Tessarion. It's a pretty small dragon. As we get this news, we get the bells being rung. Oh my god, there's a dragon, there's a dragon. And of course, Aemond is very confused because there's no dragons that should be coming in at this moment. Sunfire is MIA. Dreamfire is in the dragon pit along with Shrikos and a few of the other ones. So Aemond thinks this is an attack and runs outside, gets on his horse, and goes flying. One thing to miss, because the excitement of seeing Silverwing over the city, Ironrod and Larys instantly share a look as soon as they realize a dragon's attacking. So I think we're going to see the two of them competing to throw the other one under the bus as hard as they can for not alerting Aemond to the fact that dragons have been claimed. Yeah. So then we get... I have a talent for silly screenshots, apparently. Here we have Ulf just having a great time on Silverwing. I got a super chat earlier and talked about this, that I think that what's going on here with Ulf is I don't think Ulf is really in command too much. Like I talked about, Silverwing enjoys flying with riders. It's like pleasurable for her. Whereas Vermithor is more like, who are we about to go kill? Silverwing's like, what are we going to see? What cool thing are we going to do? So I'm guessing that as soon as Ulf jumped on, Silverwing wanted to go back to her old stomping grounds in King's Landing and sort of flew over the city. Maybe Ulf influenced that in some way to like show off for his friends, but really nothing we're seeing here shows him really in control of what the dragon is doing. He's more or less holding on for dear life, kind of like we saw after Aemond claimed Vhagar. And I think that's one thing that's going to be kind of undersold with the claiming of the dragons. Like, Rhaenyra is like, we're going to be instantly able to take on Vhagar and Aemond, or Dreamfire if that ever comes to it. Spoiler, it won't. But the problem is these guys are all novices. Novice dragon riders. Like, literally, this day is the first time they've ever done it. They don't know High Valyrian. All the dragons do. Seasmoke, Vermithor, and Silverwing would all be expected to be commanded in High Valyrian. They don't know how to hang on. They don't know how to do dragon fights. Like, none of this stuff. They're all novices on big dragons. So that's going to be a bit of a problem, but there are so many of them now that's at some point, like, natural instinct could take over. Like, if you get Vermithor attacking Vhagar, it probably wouldn't be as important that it's Hugh versus Aemond. Like, the dragons in that case would probably just take over. But for different dragons, like we saw with Meleys and Rhaenys, the connection between them is so strong that it's more a partnership. This is really just, we just need somebody on the dragon's back to throw them at people. Yeah, I would read Joy in Silverwing, especially the way that she's crying out. I don't know if you guys caught it. She sounds a lot like a Pokemon. She sounds like kind of like a Charmeleon or like a Charizard as she's flying over the city. She was growling at Ulf before, but I would read these as happy noises she's making as they're flying over the city, which makes a lot of sense. He was having a lot of fun too. It's like a amazing roller coaster ride in the sky for him. Hasn't really sort of sunk in the fact that Aemond is trying to get on Vhagar to kill his ass. He's just having a great time. And that kind of says a lot about Hugh as a person. We've seen that he's easily malleable, that he's susceptible to peer pressure. We've seen that he's easy to trick, and to kind of be used by people in the story, and doesn't really think too far in advance. He's the kind of guy who's sort of like living in the moment, not really doing too much. And that's kind of what's going on here. It is very stupid to fly over King's Landing with Vhagar there with Silverwing. If Ulf really understood the consequences, he wouldn't be doing it. But he is, because he's not really in control and he's just having a brilliant time. And that says a lot about him as a character. Not using the noodle a lot. He was just kind of having a great time out there. And this was the moment I found really, really interesting. So, obviously, as Ulf is flying Silverwing over the city, Aemond rushes to get on Vhagar, gets her up, gets into the sky, chases after Silverwing, but they can't catch her. And what ends up happening is, as they get close to Dragonstone, Vhagar's getting more and more excited. She's ready to go. She wants to kill something. She wants to kill a dragon right now. Like, really excited about it. But Aemond sees the same thing and has a very different reaction. He sees Silverwing, he sees Syrax, he sees Vermithor, and he sees Sea Smoke, and turns his ass around and goes back to King's Landing. Even saying, hang on, here it is. He tells... Oh. Flee, Vhagar. Can you imagine Aemond Targaryen saying flee to his giant, biggest dragon in the world? That is something else. And they explain this more in the after the episode. They had Ewan and Ryan Condal both comment on it, that seeing all these dragons lined up against him made Aemond feel small again, and made him feel fear, and actually express fear for the first time since he's been a child. That he looks at these dragons, he sees... I don't think he can see Rhaenyra from here, but he can definitely see the dragons, and realizes that he's in for a bad fight if he goes for it and turns it around. And then we get the final shot of the episode. Oh, let me not cut off Syrax. There we go. The Avengers assembled. Vermithor, Syrax, Silverwing on top of Dragonstone. Sea Smoke's around here somewhere. I didn't catch him in the shot, but maybe it was like a budget thing, but he would be here too on Adam. And all the dragons as one, roaring at Vhagar as she turns away and goes back to King's Landing with Aemond with his tail between his legs. So yeah, in the moment, Rhaenyra has won the way she wanted to. What she said has happened. They have claimed the riderless dragons. Vermithor, Sea Smoke, Silverwing all have riders again. She has Syrax. They can challenge Vhagar. Great. You can challenge Vhagar. The triumph of this moment is really cool. It's an awesome shot, but the problems every character has said this episode are not going away. How do you control Hugh? How do you control Ulf? How do you control Adam? How do you keep them from just flying away on their dragons? How do you keep them in line, doing what you want, ordering them around? With Daemon and Baela and Jace, like, and hopefully Rhaena at some point, there's, they're a family. There's loyalty between them. There's alliances that are dictating why they're doing the things they do, and also kind of a shared purpose. These guys just got dropped on dragons. They can do whatever they want. Like, Vermithor could kill Syrax and Rhaenyra. Silverwing probably could too. It would be a fair fight against Sea Smoke, but Rhaenyra has kind of remade the same problem she has with Daemon. It's she has kind of unreliable people on important parts of her side, and she needs to figure out how to make sure they stay that way. It's going to be really hard. But it is super interesting, and I love this shot, and it's such a cool thing getting to see those dragons finally out and about. Of course, Sanrixian, wherever she is at the moment, has probably been just over the moon, especially seeing Silverwing. Love to see these dragons show up, and hopefully we'll get to see more of them. Obviously, these aren't the only dragons. If you watch my video today, there's 3 other dragons still available. Sheepstealer, Grey Ghost, the Cannibal. Sheepstealer looks to be Rhaena's, but the Cannibal and Grey Ghost are on Dragonstone too. I wonder if Rhaenyra's going to try and make more of the survivors of the Dragonseeds. Is she going to try and make them go claim the other dragons too? Or will some of them do it on their own? I think Ryan Condal has said that we're going to see all the wild dragons. So I'm kind of curious how that would work out, how we would see Grey Ghost and the Cannibal. I really want to see the Cannibal. If you guys don't know about that dragon, it is the most interesting dragon of them all. The most mysterious. It's supposedly, let's see here, if you believe the story, it's supposed to be something like 300 years old. A gigantic angry dragon that eats other dragons. Black with green eyes. Just attacks everything and everyone around it. That could be really interesting. Hopefully, I assume some of the seeds survived. Maybe some of them wandered into the caves like Ulf did and found their way into the wrong cave. That would be super cool. But yeah, if you look back at the kind of the themes of the episode, just sort of take away from it, blood sacrifice and sacrifice in general were huge parts of this. Lots of characters were compromising things they thought they would compromise before. Daemon gives up a lot of his self-image to get the Rivermen. Rhaenyra sacrifices Jace's kind of trust in her and affection. Sort of saying, like, I have to do it. Like, Jace is going to be pissed at me. I have to do it. She's lost the Dragon Keepers. Celtigar is furious at her, and so will the High Lords. And also there's a definite theme going on throughout the episode of a lot of characters were given everything they wanted. Their wishes came true, but they have come at enormous costs to them. And it's like the idea of when the gods seek to punish us, they grant our wishes. Lots of characters have had their wishes granted. And we're going to see kind of what's the downside of that. Really curious what Rhaenyra is going to do from here. It seems like she's poised to try and take King's Landing. With Vermithor, Silverwing, and Syrax, they can definitely chase Vhagar away. Seasmoke as well. So will Aemon flee before them as he did right here? Probably. There's also Criston Cole didn't show up in this episode, but we know he's been deployed to the Riverlands to go fight against Daemon, who now has the Riverlander armies. And we know that the Starks are on their way. We might see the Lannisters on the march too. Like if Aemon leaves King's Landing and goes to the Riverlands, that's what Jason Lannister said he wanted to march his troops to fight against the Riverlords. So that might be coming up in the next episode. Could be a battle between them. Well, book readers know about the fish feed. I'm assuming that's coming up soon. Um, it it doesn't. I don't know if we're gonna get the Battle of the Gullet this episode. That might happen next season. There hasn't been a lot. Like they talked about the Triarchy, but that was like last episode. And that would be moving very fast for the Triarchy ships to show up. Doesn't mean they won't, but that would be pretty fast. I think we're going to end this season with Aemon chase out of King's Landing. I think we're probably going to end with Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne, and we're going to sort of get the idea that we've seen from Viserys about the crown crushes everyone that holds it. Rhaenyra will get she'll get the Iron Throne. It's like, but will she survive it? That kind of thing. It's made a mess of Aemond. It's made a mess of Aegon. Viserys, it literally destroyed him, as we saw this episode. The warning to Daemon works for Rhaenyra. She has her dragons. She has everything she wants to try and win the war, but will she be able to bear the cost? And again, there's a lot of other, what are they called? There's a lot of other, I can't think of the word, things in the fire. Why can't I think of that word? Whatever it is, something in the fire, where, Mysaria has basically turned the King's Landing against the Targaryens. And a lot of there will be backlash of the fact that lowborn have taken dragons. They're not magically gonna all of a sudden let go of that unrest just because Aemon's gone. Like they're gonna kind of irons in the fire. Thank you. I couldn't think of the phrase. I've been talking for a long time. I'm about to go to bed. Irons in the fire. There it is. You can tell my mind has gone to goop that I couldn't say irons in the fire. So yeah, those were some of my my quick takeaways from this episode. I really loved it. I thought it was great. I love the connections and the callbacks, parallel stories, how the entire episode has like a cohesive flow to it. That's something that people probably didn't missed a lot from later seasons of Game of Thrones, where they were kind of just throwing things happening at the same time. What they were showing here was they were tying it all together in a really, really satisfying way. I enjoyed that. Let me scroll through the chat. Any questions you guys have that I haven't gotten to while I've been ranting about blood sacrifice? Throw them in there. We'll do a rapid fire and then I'll probably go to bed. I already answered the Jace one. Why male models? What? What does that mean? What male models? How's the dragons built? They said the weirwood and hair in all Skirm's face. Is that true? That's really interesting if it is. Then Gurm was watching. Oh, I forgot to mention the other place Alice was in the episode. The first one was obviously the weirwood face. The second one was Viserys. That was probably her more or less piloting that memory, as she has been privy to them all along. Quick takeaways last 3.5 hours. I know. This is quick for me. I know I'm going to watch and listen to some of my friends' podcasts later in the week and just go like, oh my God, how did I forget that? Oh my God, that's so smart. How did I miss that during my own thing? It's, Actually, last week that happened with Girls Gone Canon and House of R with Joanna Robinson and Mallory Rubin. Both of those shows, I listened to them and just sort of went like, I didn't do a good enough job last week. They did so much better. They had such good points and they were so insightful. I was like, I really got to try harder this week. How will Helena refuse Eamon's command to have her fly Dreamfire? It's in the trailer for episode 8. Oh, I didn't see the trailer yet. I skipped over that. I guess I should have seen it. How will she refuse Eamon's command? I don't know. That's maybe she doesn't. I'm curious about that now too. I don't have a good answer. Is there any logical reason other than budget to push 30 people on Vermithor instead of approaching them one at a time? They explained that Rhaenyra's logic was more along the lines of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if it works. That she knew Vermithor's personality, and that the best shot, because everybody would be terrified after seeing the first person die, is basically like, gotta hope one of these people pulls it off. Because yeah, Vermithor kills the first person, the rest of them are not going to try. So that's more or less it. Kind of hoping to shotgun potential riders at Vermithor and hoping one of them works, which ended up happening. So way to go, Rhaenyra. What's he gonna do if she doesn't? Kind of like being king consort. Yeah, the relationship between Aemond and Helena has been set up for a while. There definitely was that scene in front of the Iron Throne where she asked him if it was worth it. And I don't know. I don't know if they've been doing anything behind the scenes. Certainly Maelor doesn't exist yet. A bunch of people took that scene with the two of them in front of the Iron Throne and went like, is Aemon gonna take his brother's wife and more or less be like impregnate her and pass it off as Aegon's? That could be a thing. With all the buildup we have to see Daeron in the last episode, I would hope so. It would be kind of a waste to build him up this hard and then not show him at all. But you never know. They've done that before. They gave us like a bunch of episodes before the Lannisters showed back up. We haven't seen the Starks. Starks were teased in episode 1. You seen a Stark since? I haven't. Cregan the Stark and the Winter Wolves are nowhere nearby. No Roddy the Ruin, nothing. Do you think Rhaenyra and Helena will interact in King's Landing? Do you think Rhaenyra will figure out Helena has dragon dreams? Okay, so first question, will they interact? Yes, Helena, I don't think she's, if what the comment said was true, and she refuses to get on Dreamfire and flee with Aemond, then yes, Rhaenyra and Helena will interact. They've been set up as mirror characters a lot this season, but Rhaenyra has changed a lot in the last few episodes, so I'm wondering if it will be like kind of like Rhaenyra looking at her, the self she's trying not to be anymore. But I would be interested if like she apologizes for Jaehaerys. That'd be kind of interesting. And as for the second part, do you think Rhaenyra will figure out Helena's dragon dreams? Very well could. Ryan Condal said to History of Westeros before the season that characters are going to start noticing Helena's dragon dreams. We're at episode 7. Nobody's noticed. So somebody's doing it in the next episode. Could it be Aemond? Could it be Aegon? Alicent? Rhaenyra is also a good candidate, especially since she's now tuned into the idea of dragon dreams and prophecy. Like, what if she walks into Helena's room and sees all the drawings and stuff and suddenly like puts it together like, oh my god, she understands or something like that. I fucked up my watch. Cool. Hmm. You think this will be when Helena dies? Well, that'd be sad. Um, Hopefully you don't get the brothel queens. Alicent's on her way back to the city. If Rhaenyra takes King's Landing, she's also going to take Alicent into custody. That could be bad. Does anyone think Daemon might not have cut off Blackwood's head off the last second and missed? No. Willem Blackwood is for sure dead, and I mean, not just what's in the episode. They obviously didn't want to show his head rolling around. I guess they got their head budget already with Rhaenyra, young Rhaenyra. But the other reason is that there's a major character coming from the Blackwoods, Benjicott Blackwood. They talked about him already, that he's not of age yet, so Willem was not actually the lord of the house, he was the regent. So for Benjicott and hopefully Black Alley and Red Rob Rivers to come to forward, they've only mentioned Benjicott. Hopefully we get the other two as well. Willem's got to be out of the way. So for Doylist reasons, Willem is dead, but also Watsonian reasons, he is definitely dead. What's my favorite dragon? The cannibal. The cannibal's my favorite. Um, let's see here. Quinn, the GM, theorized that the reason they won't show Daron is because the actor cast would grow too old for the time the next season would come out, so we might not see him. I think it would be pretty bad like a bad move on the show's part to not show us. Also, we've seen in trailers a bunch of shots of the Hightower troops on the march that hasn't showed up yet, and not the ones that have gone with Kristen. There's a bunch of them going up a road, I think, from like the early season trailer. So I would be surprised if we're not going to see Daron and Tessarion, even if they just show up a little bit. If you could ride any of the dragons, who would you choose? Silverwing. Silverwing is the best dragon. I mean, I'm not trying to be a dragon lord. Silverwing just seems awesome and like a great pet and a lot of fun to have. That would be the dragon I would actually have. The cannibal is my favorite though. Finale has the fight between Daemon and Aemond. No, I don't think so. I don't think they'll meet this season. I mean, they've been setting it up a lot, but I don't think they want to put that this early. Hope to see Dunk and Egg before Hot D Season 3. They're filming Night of the Seven Kingdoms now, and that show has way less CGI in it, so could be out next year. If they finish it and there's no more strikes and all that stuff, so yeah, you could get your wish. That might come out before Hot D. What color is Daron's hair? There have been some rumors that Daron has his mother's hair that I've seen out in the internet. It would certainly draw the hypocrisy of Alicent more if Daron looked like her instead of Viserys. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. Tesserion's blue, but I think Daron canonically is supposed to have silver hair, right? Hang on a second. Oh, it doesn't say. It just says he was courteous and clever and handsome. No description of his hair color. Interesting. Maybe he will come out looking like Alicent. Did Alice kill Grover? Yes, she did. They said that in the last episode. when Alice went to volunteer her services as the renowned healer of House Strong and Harrenhal, and then nothing could be done, and Grover unexpectedly died. So Alice killed Grover for Daemon, which is kind of interesting. I guess kind of look out if Daron looks a lot like Kristen Cole. They've really been banging the Alicent hypocrite stuff a lot. So if Daron is Kristen's but I don't think that's true. I didn't Condal say that they started the relationship after Viserys died. I don't think they're gonna make Daron Kristen's, but it would be interesting if he has just if he has Alicent's hair instead. Anyway, I think that's probably about it. I'm going to head out of here. If you guys have enjoyed this stream, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're first time here. I have a new video that went up today talking about all the wild dragons, including the ones that were in the episode today, Vermithor, Silverwing, Seasmoke, but along with the other wild dragons, Sheepstealer, Grey Ghost, and the Cannibal. If any of the mods are still around, please throw a link in the chat for them. If you enjoy my content and you feel like supporting me, there's channel memberships, which are down below. And there's also my Patreon, patreon.com/JoeMagician. Both give the same benefits. It doesn't matter which one you choose. You get access to the patron Discord and Slack. You get behind the scenes stuff. You get a whole bunch of extra content, which will be coming out more after the season. And also, you can check out my Threadless shop, threadless.com/JoeMagician, and you can get yourself some cool Blackwood gear and Rhaena stuff and all the good stuff. There's a whole bunch of links right below the stream if you want to check them out. But yeah, I think that's probably going to be it for me tonight. My voice is starting to go. I am tired, and I have to work in the morning. So I think it's going to be it. Thank you, everybody that hung out tonight. Get ready for the finale. Also, fun part about this finale, nobody knows what's coming. They're not giving out screeners for it. So we're all going to be in the dark going into it. So I'm not lying in the sense that I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does. Don't believe leaks. Anyway.